right, guys. I think you can hear me, but I think my camera broke. I think my camera broke again. Hold on. There we go. All right, guys. Is that his butt? No. No, that was my arm. I was bending down. I had to fix something. Yeah, dude. Another Whoa, hold on. Hold on. Is it working? Okay, it's working. Yeah, that looked really strange. I went live and I'm like, why do I look like that? Where am I? What's going on? What is happening? What is happening? And oh my lord. Oh my lord, Corey, bro. Oh my god. Oh my god. Do you guys see this? Hold on. I need to get this. Wow. Corey Lendega. Corey Legend. This is why you're the legend, man. Is my camera fixed, by the way? Guys, please tell me my camera's fixed. Okay, yeah, it's good now. It's good. All right. So, wow, dude, Corey, man, holy crap. What? Now that has to be a record. That has to be a record. Corey, the legend, coming in. A 50 bomb, dude. 50 memberships gifted. Wow. Wow. What a way to kick off the start of June. Thank you so much, Corey. And thank you to everybody. I mean, that's crazy. I do have a somewhat of a new configuration here. I'm going to try to test the soundboard. So chat, let me know if it's working.
You're breathtaking.
Did that work?
Breathtaking.
If not, the soundboard might be turned off today. I might have to reprogram it. Saying JT, you're saying, where is my membership badge? And then you're saying, never mind. Awesome. So the soundboard is working. Dude, thank you so much, Corey. That is, I mean, dude, that I had to get rid of the nuke, as you know. But starting the stream off with a 50 bomb is unbelievable, dude. That's crazy. I really appreciate the support, guys. I did put out a community post yesterday, basically thanking everybody for the support. And the reason for that is because May was the single most successful month ever here on the channel. And I've had some pretty good months on YouTube in the past. And the fact that May 2023, like, the growth has just been off the charts. It really has been. So I can't thank you guys enough for the support. It really is a dream come true, and I'm genuinely humbled by the generosity of this community. And you know, we started to do something new here with the streams, forming a more tight-knit community, and the support. I know I sound like a broken record, but you know, it means a lot. It really means a lot, and you guys truly go above and beyond. So, you know, I really can't thank you guys enough. I'm more motivated, as I said, than I ever have been. I've been enjoying this so much, and it's always awesome to see you guys show up and show your support, and ultimately we can have a good time. We can talk video games. And I meant to mention this. Crazy, dude. So Corey, let's get some W's in the chat one more time for Corey. Straight up coming out here with a 50 bomb, gifting 50 memberships to start the day off, the first stream of the new month. Genuinely couldn't have asked for a better way to start the stream. So thank you so much, man. I'm sure you guys notice I've made some, in my opinion, improvements to the background here. We got Saying JT keeping this train going. Saying JT bringing the memberships up to 51 on the day. In just a moment here, I'm going to have to I'm going to have to fix the member goal because I had it set to 25 and Corey literally doubled that. That has to be a record. I think I was less than a minute into the stream. Where's the cat tower? So the cat tower actually is right behind me here. I am blocking it a little bit, but when boss is up there, he should be on camera. If not, I can make adjustments to it. But yeah, I got some more wall art. I got MGS3 in the background, as you can see. Big boss saluting. I love that artwork. To me, that's iconic artwork. Yoji Shinkawa. It's unfortunate that he's not going to be part of the Metal Gear remake, Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, but had to get that. And the poster next to that, it's not actually a poster. It's like it's canvas art. I thought this was so cool when I found this. Like, I've never seen anything like this where it has every generation. I'm hoping it's coming through clear on the camera, but I thought that this canvas art was so cool. It's every generation of PlayStation console stacked on top of each other, the home consoles. So at the very bottom, you get the PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, and then the PS5 on top. I thought that was the coolest thing ever when I saw it because to me, it's genuinely unique. I haven't really seen anything like that. So I knew I had to get it when I saw it. And yeah, I have another one coming. It just might take a while to get here. It could be weeks before it gets here. I've hinted at it in the past. It's nothing like crazy, but I have another poster. You're saying raise the volume. My voice is too low. Guys, what do you think? I mean, my settings are exactly the same. What do you guys think? Should I up the volume? Maybe I need to move the mic a little bit. The volume is fine. Okay. I see some people are saying raise it a little bit. I can raise it a tad. How's that? Is that better? Or maybe that's too much. How about that? Is that good? Or is it too much? Too much? You got to be very careful with the gain. This should be good. This should be good. This should be perfect. Because I do keep the mic pretty close to me. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I try to never mess with the gain while I'm live. It's very sensitive. I mean, you up the gain by just like 2, 4, 6, 8. I mean, it'll start sounding like you're exploding through the microphone. Remember that one time I started a stream with my gain up at like 100 and it basically just blew up the ears of anybody who's using headphones? MBG, where's the Hellblade 2 poster going to go? I don't know. I do actually have plenty of room left on the walls in the room here. You just can't see it. But yeah, for now, I have one other piece of wall art coming. It's one that I definitely wanted to get. I've been wanting to get it for a long time. We have Edward Todd keeping the membership train going, bringing us up to 52 members on the day. Thank you so much, Edward. I appreciate that. I think this is the first time I've seen you gifting. And saying JT, I don't know if that's your first time gifting either, but I always love to see new individuals gifting here. And we got Corey coming in again, dude, starting the stream off with a membership train. That dude, Corey dropping another 10 bomb. Dude, that is wild, man. That's 70 memberships gifted by Corey Landega today. Legendary Landega. Dude, that is... Wow, man. I don't mean to sound like I'm not excited. I am. I was like, yo, I'm going to come into this stream calm, cool, collected. We're going to talk about some PlayStation topics. And Corey's like, yo, dude, we're going to get this train and we're going to go full speed ahead. Yeah, W's in the chat for Corey. You little crazy Arnold there. Dude, thank you, man. That support is incredible. That support is incredible. I really can't. I don't want to. I know. I don't want to keep going on. Corey, you know how much it means to the community. You know how much it means to me. And I know that people don't want to just sit here for the next 10 minutes hearing me thank you for this, but thank you. Thank you, Corey. That's crazy. I'm going to have to update the member goal real quick. So Give me a moment while I do that. And we're going to dive into these topics. I hope everybody's doing well today. I meant to ask you guys that at the start of the stream. How is everybody doing today? How's your day going so far? I hope it's going well. Oh, and on top of that, guys, I just updated the member goal. Please let me know. Is the soundboard going crazy? Or is there no soundboard happening right now? No sound? Okay, good. Just double checking, because again, I've been messing around with some stuff, and I just want to make sure everything's good to go. So anytime I update the member goal, I don't want the soundboard exploding. We've talked about that. I had to triple check here, and I'm glad to hear pretty much everybody's doing well today. The Swedish King, you're saying just hit 100,000K or 100K, bro. 100,000 subscribers. Yeah, dude, we're getting close. I think the last time I checked, we're at 99,125 subscribers, which is crazy. So we are getting there, man. That'll definitely be a huge milestone when it happens. You're saying, why do you keep the member goals low every day? Well, honestly, man, it's because I don't know. I don't necessarily feel comfortable just going into a stream assuming like, oh yeah, I'm just going to get 50 memberships today, because that's crazy. Like that's a ton of memberships, man. To me, setting the goal at 25 is not low. To me, that's a high goal. But yeah, I mean, the community here, as you see, they break right through it instantaneously. So thank you again, Corey. Let me read these super chats before I dive into today's topics, because we do have some topics to discuss. 100% sober Sir Speaks a Lot says, I wanted to DM something to you, MBG, but you turned off your DMs on Twitter. Omni-Man would have killed the trolls. Why don't you? Yeah, so as you can see, Sir Speaks a Lot, I have given you back mod status. I think today is an appropriate day to do that. It is June 1st. It's the start of a new month. To me, that always feels kind of like a fresh start. So, as you know, Sir Speaks a Lot, it comes with responsibility. My request is never nuke the chat unless I give the order, okay? Unless I give the order. Use the mod ship responsibly. I know you've been waiting. I know many people here have been waiting. So use it responsibly, man. And yeah, if you see trolls, take out the trolls. We don't need them, causing problems during the streams or with the community. So hopefully that makes your day, Sir Speaks a Lot. And I appreciate the super chat, man. And I appreciate the long-term support. I appreciate it, man. So like I said, I'm not saying there will never be another nuke. There probably will be. I'm just saying you have to wait for my go-ahead, okay? Pragmatic Cat, you're saying, I'm currently reading the 8th Harry Potter book, and I'm happy to inform you that Craig is dead once and for all. Yep. Avada how do you say it? Cadavra. Avada Kedavra. Yeah, I don't know why it's such a struggle saying that. Avada Kedavra. Yeah, dude, Craig got dropped. Craig got dropped, bro. I appreciate the super chat, Pragmatic Cat. I think that's the second stream in a row with just a somewhat random super chat, but I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. And let me see. I know V Game Veteran also gifting a membership, bringing us up to 73 members on the day. Thank you or I actually boosted it to 74, but still 73 memberships on the day. V Game Veteran, I appreciate that, man. Shout out to you. And a long-term member as well, so thank you. Thank you for the support. Emmanuel Parry, you're saying, love what you do, brother. Keep up the great work. Embrace the haters. It means you're worth big enough. Using to get views, LOL. Yeah, I appreciate that, dude. Yeah, I mean, that comes with the territory, as I've spoken about before. Just having a YouTube channel here, doing what I do, there's always going to be haters, and that's fine. I'm not necessarily put off by that. It's just one of these things where, it is what it is. But I try to I try to put all my focus on those who care about the content, who care about the channel, who care about this community. That's what's important to me. So I appreciate it, Emmanuel. Thank you for the support. Michael Lynch, you're saying, MBG, I can't thank you enough. Thank you, thank you. Me, you're sure you're going to try, though? I know, man. I know. I apologize. I have to get better with that. It's a difficult thing for me, and I'm sure over time I'll improve. I know that even those of you who are gifting mass amounts of memberships, I know you guys don't want me to spend like 3 to 5 minutes just sitting here saying thank you. So I will try my best. I appreciate everybody who's hanging in there with me. And ooh, wait, why is that cut off? Hold on 1 second here. For some reason this last super chat is cut off. I have to bring it up here. There we go. Okay. Dr. Moda 989, you're saying, any plans for 100,000 subscribers? As of right now, I don't have any specific plans. I mean, I could very well see us doing like a maybe, I don't know, like a 100K subscriber stream, but I don't know, man. I'm not entirely sure what I would do, you know. I would have to put a little bit of thought into it. I feel like the easiest thing would be to take my hat off, you know. Like, we've reached 100,000 subscribers. The moment you've all been waiting for, head reveal, you know. So maybe we could do that. I'm not sure. Bring the mullet back. Yeah, that would be the best way to do it. Bring the mullet back and then do the head reveal later. But yeah, it's crazy to think that we're almost at 100K. I would have never thought. Okay, so we are about I'd say 15, 16 minutes into the stream now. So I'm going to dive into these topics. I just have to say before doing so, as you guys know, if you want to help support the channel here, becoming a channel member, gifting memberships, super chatting, these things are incredibly helpful and support the channel directly. Your viewership, obviously just as important, and hitting that like button helps as well. So let's get into the very first topic here. It's nothing too exciting, but it is something that I do want to let everybody know about. The PlayStation Plus monthly games, the essential games that is, for June have been revealed by Sony, and they're going to be available on June 6th, so be on the lookout for that. NBA 2K23 for both PS5 and PS4. So yeah, I mean, it's a huge game. It's one of the most popular games, but if you're not into sports games, if you're not into basketball, you're probably not feeling too excited about NBA 2K23. But I'm sure some people are happy about that. And then next up, we have Jurassic World Evolution 2 for both PS5 and PS4. And actually, I've heard good things about this game. Now, I don't know that this is a game that I'm personally going to play, but some people have told me about the first Jurassic World Evolution and how it was actually pretty good. And I know that there were at least a few people that I've seen excited for the sequel. I haven't looked at review scores or anything like that, so I'm not sure how well it did or did not review, but you know, if you're a fan, there you go. You get the sequel through PS Plus. And then the third one here is one that I actually will likely play and try out, Trek to Yomi. I remember when this came out, a lot of people were excited for it, and it's very reminiscent in some ways of like Ghost of Tsushima. You know, I'll read the description here. Trek to Yomi is an ultra-stylized cinematic action-adventure that follows an enthralling story of Hiroki during his fall against the forces of evil, experience his heroic return to make good on his failed promise to save the people he swore to protect. As a vow to his dying master, the young swordsman is sworn to protect his town and the people he loves against all threats. Faced with tragedy and bound to duty, the lone samurai must voyage beyond life and death to confront himself and decide his path forward. So I wanted to read that description in particular because I feel like the other two games are pretty self-explanatory. And I should probably let you know that for Jurassic World Evolution 2, it's important to note this is it's a management simulator. So you're actually like managing the park itself and the dinosaurs. Just I think that's important to know about that game. But this Trek to Yomi game, yeah, I think this is a pretty good get for PS Plus. I'm sure some of you have played it already, but again, I've only heard good things about it. It's kind of a side scroller, but the combat looks really cool. So there you go. That is the PlayStation Plus lineup for June. I think overall, I think it's pretty decent. I don't think it's the strongest month. Like for me, seeing an NBA 2K game, that doesn't get me excited. I'm not really into sports games. Jurassic World Evolution 2, I think that's a solid one, just not one I'm probably going to play. But Trek to Yomi is pretty cool. So overall, I'd say it's a pretty good month. Not the greatest, but certainly not a bad month. I wouldn't go that far. Yeah, so guys, let me know which games here, if any, are you planning on playing through PlayStation Plus. Space D, you're saying, calling it right now, MBG 100K on June 11th at 6 p.m. Oh, that would be pretty cool, but also incredibly ironic. That would be the funniest thing. So I've been thinking about this. I've really been putting a lot of thought into whether I want to stream the Xbox showcase, or if I want to do like a kind of, like watch it myself and then afterwards or the next day or whenever the next stream is, basically talk about our thoughts. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure how I want to handle this. Exley 3000 dropping another 10 memberships. Thank you so much, Exley. Exley getting involved here as well. Huge shout out to Exley 3000 and Corey Lendega. These guys have been just continually gifting memberships, growing this community, keeping it growing, keeping it strong. So thank you so much, Exley. Really appreciate the continued support. Let's get some W's in the chat for both Exley 3000 and Corey Lendega. These guys are the true heroes of the channel here. You say you're going to stream at MBG. Nothing's set in stone right now. The reason being is I like streaming these events. I do. But I have to admit that sometimes I don't know, man, it can be difficult to balance properly processing what I'm seeing, what I'm watching, while simultaneously balancing the fact that I'm doing a live stream. But we'll see what happens. It feels like Spacey, you're saying you think MBG is worried that he's going to love the showcase. No, dude, I'm not worried about loving the showcase. At this point in time, the number one thing I'm looking out for in competitive terms with Microsoft is I want to see them come out strong. I want to see them win over some mind share. I want to see them do a good job. And I want to see people excited. And I want to see a lot of positive conversation around Xbox. And the reason for this is because it would be nice it would be good for Sony and for PlayStation and the PlayStation fan base to have that competition. It would be nice for Sony to walk away, after the showcase on June 11th thinking, okay, that was really good. And people are very excited. Because that means it's just, they're going to have to pay attention to it. They're not going to be able to just kind of say, oh, well, Xbox had a bad showcase and, we're just going to do our thing and we don't have to worry at all. Maybe that could be a good thing for Sony, but I don't know. I just feel like a lot of times with these video game companies and these publishers and these platform holders, I think it's been proven throughout time that you usually get the best from them when they feel the pressure of the competition. Sometimes it can be too much. We've been talking extensively about how PlayStation has just been, on a streak for many years, and it's been a struggle for Xbox to really compete at that high level in some regards. And that, I think, is what a lot of people are going into Xbox's showcase hoping to see, is like, we want to see them prove that, we took our time, we had these games in development, we've purchased these studios, we've listened to the feedback, and it's time to just simply show some great games, That's really all it boils down to. So, when I talk about streaming the event, it has nothing to do with like, oh, I'm afraid I might like it, or I'm afraid I might not like it, or nothing like that. It's just that, the honest truth at this point, guys, is that I have to continually reevaluate whether or not I'm that interested in other platforms. And a lot of people have accused me in the past, and I think it's understandable, that, oh man, you only like to pay attention to Xbox or talk about Xbox when it's bad news or when something bad is happening. And looking back, it's like, okay, I can't deny that. I can't deny that I've had a bit of an axe to grind with the Xbox platform for many years because of, how everything played out with the Xbox One generation and the PlayStation 4. But simply put, I'm not an Xbox enthusiast anymore. And I think that's obvious. I mean, it's kind of funny that I'm even saying that out loud, because I'm not sure who would come to MBG's channel thinking, oh, this guy is an Xbox enthusiast, right? No, I'm not. It's not a platform that I've played on for many years. It's not a platform that I've engaged with for many years. And I just think all it really boils down to is, when I watch the upcoming Xbox showcase, the only question I'm going to be asking myself is when I walk out of that show, am I now gonna engage with the Xbox platform? That's the only question that I'm gonna ask myself, because it really is just that simple. I know that for a long time on the channel, for a lot of people, it's been all about like the console war stuff, and obviously I've propagated that a lot, and I've had my takes, I've had my opinions, I've had my thoughts, and I feel like it's all basically led to this moment where it's like, look, I can only go so many years without picking up an Xbox controller, without subscribing to Xbox Live, without playing an Xbox game, without buying an Xbox console, until at some point it just basically becomes like Nintendo for me, where it's like, do I have any problems with Nintendo? No. Why is that? Because I don't pay attention to Nintendo. I don't play on Nintendo. I haven't since I was a kid, and that's it. It's as simple as that. It is different with Xbox because I have, it feels much more recently that I've played on Xbox, even though it has been, I don't, how many years has it been? It was 2023 now. It's probably been like 4 years since I've actually sat down and turned on my Xbox to play anything on it, which is a long time. Like, to me, that's a long time. 4 years is a long time. And that's the whole thing, is it is always, I will admit this, it's always felt strange to me to pay close attention to the things that are going on with Xbox, knowing that, well, I don't play on this platform. And a lot of people have called me out for that, rightfully so, where it's like, well, why are you talking about it if you don't play on it? And I've always defended myself by saying, but I did play on Xbox. Like, I was an Xbox fan. That's just a fact. That's what it was. And so when I say it feels like it's all culminating to this one moment, what I mean by that is this showcase, and I know the conversations that have been surrounding this Xbox showcase, the conversations surrounding this showcase have been, nothing short of dramatic, I guess you could say. And again, it's understandable why. A lot of people feel like this is a make or break show for Xbox. Like, this is the moment. They have to deliver not just an okay show, but a very good show, and they have to show a lot of exciting games. And I've been saying for literally years at this point that I've been waiting for Xbox to show me games that make me want to get up and say, I now want to get re-involved. I want to re-involve myself with this platform, with this ecosystem. And when I think about this show, I think this is going to be it for me, man, where if they do it and they have games on display that make me go, wow, I'm feeling a genuine excitement that I haven't felt for years for this platform, then there you go. Like I'm now about to, embrace Xbox once again. But if it's a bad show, like if I tune into, and when I say, keep in mind, I'm only speaking from a subjective point of view. That's important to understand. I'm just speaking from a subjective point of view. If for me, nothing that was shown made me really go, I have to play that. I want to play that. That looks really good. Then I'm going to be walking away, like, for good. Or, and I'm when I say walking away for good, what I mean by that is I'm not going to be paying attention anymore. And that's just how it's going to be, man. It's really not a complicated thing. It's very simple. It's just that, like I said, I feel like I can only go so many years without being involved with something where it's like, at what point does the question arise? Like, do you actually even want to be involved with this? Like, do you actually want to play on Xbox? And the answer to that question for literally 4 years straight now has been no, I do not. And I do think it sounds kind of crazy that it's like, so you're just expecting that suddenly, this showcase is going to be the one that just makes you turn around and go, now I want to be involved with the Xbox platform. It could be. I don't want to say that that's not possible. It certainly could be. I did see recently that Fable's being teased, and that's interesting because that game was announced, I think, in 2018? So it's like, yeah, I would like to see some gameplay of Fable. How long has it been since we've seen Fable? Can't say it's a series I was ever super into, but this is a brand new start. They have an opportunity to really, I think Xbox has a big opportunity in front of them, and I recognize that. I think everybody recognizes that. But just on a personal level, I just can't hide from the fact that, dude, you have not cared about Xbox for years. And I've always put forth this mentality of like, it's because I want them to do this and I want them to do that. And for me, whatever it is that I've been wanting Xbox to do for many years, they simply haven't been doing it. And I'm tired. I'm tired of coming on the channel here and saying the same thing over and over again, like Xbox has to do this, and then basically getting flack from people who are happy or okay or content with what Xbox is doing, and basically telling me, dude, it's, we're cool over here. Xbox is doing fine, just because they're not doing the one thing or the couple of things specifically you want them to do. Why you keep talking about it? And it's like, I get that. I totally get that. I completely understand that. And I don't know, man. I'm looking to simplify things going forward, as I've talked to you guys about. And that's one of the things that I'm looking to simplify is it's just, I'm going to go into the showcase and Xbox is either going to show me something that makes me come back to you guys and say, yo, I'm getting an Xbox and I'm going to be playing it, or they're going to show stuff that makes me go, I see what, like maybe some people will love it. I don't know. Maybe the show could be a disaster. We don't know. But if they don't show me anything that really makes me turn around and say, I'm going to go buy an Xbox, then I'm not going to berate them for it. And that's the important thing here. And I want people to keep that in mind. Xbox could have the biggest, most disastrous, just absolute worst show any publisher's ever put on. I'm not going to rag on them for it. I'm not. Because the time I've done that for so long, if that's what happens, there's not going to be any words spoken. There's not going to be any type of big, dramatic moment from MBG. It's just simply going to be, well, it is what it is, and I'm gonna walk away now, and that's that. And that'll, like, if the show is bad, it'll probably be the last time I pay any attention to Xbox unless it's necessary. Like, I feel like with the whole Activision Blizzard thing, it's been a little bit different because that directly impacts PlayStation, and PlayStation has gotten directly involved. But you know, it's like the whole Redfall situation, man. I admit it was very difficult not to get really caught up in that. And it is this, you know, overall, I just feel like the whole situation with a game like Redfall was disappointing no matter what. Just like what happened with Sony with Forspoken. It's disappointing. You know, no one wants to see that happen generally speaking. And it's unfortunate because I feel like I don't know, man, I feel like a lot of games have been just struggling throughout this year. It just hasn't been the greatest year in terms of game launches. And in some cases, the quality of games. I mean, even the most recent example, that Gollum game, it's like, what is going on? You know, like, how did this game get made? How is this game $60? Not everybody's been struggling. Yeah, some publishers have been doing very well and finding a lot of big success. I see somebody mentioning Capcom. Yeah, Capcom has been on fire, man. Capcom has been incredibly consistent. You got to give them credit for that, man. You're saying, to be clear, I have been around since your Xbox days. That's cool to hear, man. I appreciate that long-term support. And so, again, this isn't like it's not meant to sound like a dramatic thing, because it's really not, guys. I've gotten dramatic about things in the past, and I've had my rants, I've had my hype moments, and those will obviously continue, but it's just when I'm thinking about how I'm conducting myself, it really does just boil down to, like, I cannot bring myself to continue to pay attention to Xbox to any capacity if after this show I'm not feeling like I want to play an Xbox or go, you know, buy an Xbox Series X and have it there for games that are coming. And that doesn't mean I'm going to sit here every day and say, let me tell you why Xbox sucks. No, that's not what it's going to be. Just like if they have a great showcase, it's not going to be, I'm going to wake up every day and tell you this is why Xbox is the best. It's neither of those things. So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, I did see people asking whether or not I'm going to be streaming the Xbox showcase. Right now, I'm 50-50 on the matter. I mean, look, I'll be real with myself here. By the time June 11th rolls around, I very well do see myself setting up a stream and being like, you know what, let's watch it together. Why not? But I just don't want anybody to be like totally shocked or like caught off guard if it's like, oh, where's MBG's stream? I may just decide I'm going to watch it myself and talk about it afterwards. We'll see. You'll say you'll stream it 100%? I might, yeah. I might. Stream it. Yeah, I know you guys, don't get me wrong, like, it's not a matter of support or anything. Like, I know that if I stream it, you guys will show up. So that's, you know, I'm not worried about that. Yeah, I mean, all right, so if I had to give you like a ratio right now, realistically it's probably 65-35. 65% chance I'm going to stream it, 35% chance I won't. And we'll see if that changes. As we get closer to it. And actually I have to update this here. Why is that so... Okay. Oh, that's weird. That's definitely glitched out. Okay. Let me see here. I have V Game Veteran, you're saying for 100,000 subscribers, you should cosplay as Kratos and shout "boy" every time a membership is gifted. Oh man, that would be pretty intense. That would be an intense 100,000 subscriber celebration. I don't know if I could pull it off, man. I don't know if I could pull that off. I'll think about it. Oh yeah, you know what? I actually didn't think about that. I see you guys mentioning Kojima's Xbox game. Yeah, that. You know what? I actually kind of forgot that they did announce that last year, I think, and they confirmed it. So that game might show up at this year's Xbox show, and yeah, that's a game I'm very intrigued by. I'm very curious to see what that ends up being, because I mean, we already know somewhat what to expect with a game like Death Stranding 2. That would be pretty cool to see. Yeah, Overdose. Yeah, I forgot that it even has that name attached to it. Overdose. Interesting. So Narcan Blitzer, you're saying, I love the PlayStation console canvas art MBG, the OG PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, PS5. I have all consoles except instead of the OG PS4, I have the Kingdom Hearts 3 PS4 Pro. May your heart be your guiding key. That's awesome to hear, man. I wish I could say I still had all the PlayStation consoles, but I don't. When it comes to hardware, I've never been a collector, and I kind of regret that. And I don't know, I may do something at some point where I start trying to collect some, maybe starting with the older PlayStation consoles. That would be pretty cool. I have to admit, this canvas, it's kind of inspiring a little bit, because I have had all these PlayStation consoles, and it's just every time I look at it, it just reminds me of just random memories that pop up of even going back to the PS1. Actually, that as funny as it sounds, it is somewhat difficult to remember a lot about the PlayStation 1 because I was pretty young at the time, but one game I do remember playing, oddly enough, is The Simpsons Wrestling. Have any of you guys ever played that? I'm pretty sure that was a PlayStation 1 game. But I specifically remember playing that and I don't know if I was that impressed with it or not. I think I had some fun with it. But I actually remember playing that game on my PS1. You know what else? Check this out. Here's a really deep cut. At least for me, it feels like it is. I remember I was playing this game. I do not remember the name of it, but it was like a Roadrunner game, like Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. I'm pretty sure. Was there? I don't know. Am I misremembering? Wasn't there a game like that? Does anybody know the name of it? I see somebody saying yes and another saying they remember that. Yeah, I remember I think I rented it or something from Blockbuster. And the only thing I can remember about it is that I had no idea how to play it. And I had I think one of my uncles was trying to help me figure it out, but he couldn't figure it out either. But it's just so funny to think back to those random PlayStation 1 memories. Sheepdog and Wolf. Oh, you know what? Yeah, that does ring a bell. That does ring a bell. Man, the PS1. What a great console. Sheep Raider? Is that what it was? Sheep Raider? That has to be. You have to be trolling me right now. A legendary PS1 game. Spider-Man. Neversoft Spider-Man. That's a legendary PlayStation 1 game, man. I remember playing that. And it's so funny because if you were to go back and check that game out, that game is really short. I think you can beat that game in just a couple of hours. But I remember back when I was playing it, it felt so long. It felt like such a massive game. Sheep Raider PS1. Oh, yeah, the original Duke Nukem. Oh, yeah. It was Sheepdog and Wolf. I'm going to have to look into this. Anyway, Sorry to abruptly just go down memory lane there, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I really like that canvas, man. Like I said, once I saw it, I knew I had to have it. All right, so I appreciate the super chat, man. 100% sober Sir Speaks a Lot says, I'm going to be honest, it's going to take a hell of a lot more to even consider getting an Xbox. They could have the best looking games, but I would need more. Yeah, I mean, I'm leaving the door open. You know what I mean? I don't have anything. I'm not going in with any specific expectation except for if they show me a game that I want to play, then mission accomplished. And that sounds like a really, I think, low bar for a lot of people. And maybe that is a very low bar. And that's really it. That's all I'm going into thinking, going to the show thinking. Doesn't have to be like, a specific type of game or anything like that. 18 May, you're saying MBG coming with peace and love, but to skip streaming Xbox showcases, the biggest take your ball and go home move. That's funny, dude. Yeah, I mean, look, it's easy for me to say right now, like, oh yeah, I'm probably not going to stream it, or I won't. But the reality is, you're probably going to stream it. Like MBG, you're probably going to stream it, man, and it's cool. One of the biggest reasons why I think I'm going to is because I know a lot of you guys, as you're clearly showing here, would like me to. And that I have to admit, like, that makes it really difficult for me to just turn and say no, because it feels kind of unfair. Did you guys just hear that? Okay, that was really funny. Yeah, what was that, bro? They're about to fight again. Hey. Come on. They're misbehaving. Corey Lundega, thank you for the super chat, man. You're saying Xbox is indeed in trouble, but they still have a legion of X bitches. that's a hell of a way to put it. It's probably that they know how to allure many fans. Just a thought. Yeah, I mean, like, without getting too into the weeds here, I think that a lot of people have very quickly moved on from the most recent situation regarding Xbox, which, again, we're not getting in the weeds here. If you know, with Redfall and all that stuff. But I think it's like, that's just how it goes, right? Like, people are just going to move on to the next thing. And right now, the next thing that people are moving on to is the showcase. And there's no denying that, no matter my personal thoughts on anything that Microsoft is doing, whether it comes to their games, their services, their consoles, anything in between, there are going to be people who enjoy it. There are going to be people who support it. Like even with the whole Redfall thing, I saw people saying that, like, man, I'm really enjoying Redfall. And I will admit, like, that kind of caught me off guard, where I'm like, maybe you're not trolling. Like, maybe that's true. And that's fine. Like, I'm not here to, like, judge anybody. But it's just having those realizations sometimes is good, because I can look at games and give my own opinions on them and give my thoughts and decide for myself whether or not I think it looks like a worthwhile game. And I know that no matter what game I'm looking at, there's likely always going to be at least someone who disagrees. And, I think for a long time I've kind of had this type of mentality where it's like, well, if this game is bad and pretty much almost everybody's saying it's bad, then surely nobody can say it's good. And it's like, it's a losing, like, that's not a battle that's even worth trying to fight, because it's like, well, someone's going to like it. You know what I mean? Someone's going to like it. And that's fine. But when it comes to the upcoming show, again, I feel like, I'll be honest, I feel like I've already spent too much time talking about it, and I apologize for that, because that's not really what I want this stream to be about. But to keep it as simple as I can, a lot of people are going to tune in, a lot of people are going to pay attention, and if they can have a good show, even more people are going to be paying attention than they were prior to the show. And that, to me, is just, that's how it'll go. And we'll see what ends up happening. So, saying you can have a lot of fun with a bad game, that is true. That is very true. Steve, you're saying, MBG, your setup is looking good in the back. Thank you so much, man. I worked hard on it. Well, me and my wife did. Mrs. MBG helped me out a lot. So, credit to Mrs. MBG for helping me with the setup here. Yeah, even that Golem game, man, I did see people are having fun with that Golem game for all the wrong reasons. Nick, you're saying, I think seeing Fable might reaffirm my confidence in Xbox, and since Xbox teased it being there, I'm very excited for the show. Yeah, it seems clear at this point that it's likely going to show up, and I have to admit that the thing that is most intriguing to me about it is the studio behind it, Playground Games. They've never made a game like this before. Playground Games, they're known for the Forza Horizon series, which I think is a great series. And so that's why I'm just so interested to see, how does this studio handle a game like this? A fantasy RPG, very different from a open world racing game. And I feel like it could go one of two ways. It could go very poorly, of course, but it also could go very well, where it's like, wow, who knew that the studio could pull off a game like this? So, yeah, we'll see, Nick. Omen86, you're saying, how is Sony making exclusives? How is Sony making exclusives, third-party deals like Final Fantasy 16? They use their big showcase to prop up third-party. All eyes on primetime. That's huge. That's actually a good point. That's a really good point to make, Omen, because it is true that the latest PlayStation showcase, like, almost all of it was third-party. And it does seem clear at this point that Sony really likes to try to leverage just not only like, hey, we're the biggest brand in gaming, we have the most worldwide appeal, but we get a lot of viewership, like probably the most viewership when we do our shows. And you're right in that any third-party partner that Sony gets involved with, that can be extremely beneficial to Sony, ultimately. I mean, obviously it's beneficial to Sony in that they want people to buy copies of those games. Like, if we take Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, for example, I think a lot of people would already assume that even though it's a multi-plat, it's probably going to sell best on PlayStation. I mean, Metal Gear has always it's always been kind of synonymous with PlayStation. But there's now also the factor that, well, the trailer showed up at PlayStation Showcase. And I don't know if it's been confirmed or not, but it seems there's a chance that Sony actually has the marketing rights to Metal Gear. They might not. They may have just, had Konami show the trailer at the showcase. But it's like that is automatically going to help PlayStation. Obviously, just like if Xbox was doing it, it helps them. If Nintendo does it, it helps them. But it also does, it creates a kind of like beginning of a potential partnership. Because you're right, you talk about Final Fantasy 16, Sony does have quite a bit that they can offer, I think, from their side, from their perspective, to any third party who may want to consider doing an exclusivity deal. We got Corey Lendega again, man, coming in with another 10 bomb. Corey with another 10 memberships gifted. Dude, I think that brings you up to 80 memberships. Corey has gifted 80 memberships to this community today. Guys, let's get a big thank you train going in the chat here for Corey and some W's, because that is huge, man. That is a lot of memberships gifted. So once again, a big thank you, Corey. Keeping the membership train going, bringing us up to 94 on the day, man. Love to see it, dude. Yeah, Corey really is putting in work today for the community. Appreciate it, dude. Really appreciate that. Aaron Yogurt, you're saying, MBG, are you going to stream the MetaQuest showcase? I'll be honest, I had no idea there was a MetaQuest showcase. This is the first time I'm hearing about this. There's no reason for me to say probably. I can safely say I have zero plans to stream the MetaQuest showcase. It's nothing against the MetaQuest, just not something I see myself doing. So, oh, you know what? It makes me wonder if at any point in time Sony would be willing to do a dedicated PlayStation VR, like, micro showcase or something like that. Like, maybe it could just be a state of play, but just completely dedicated to PlayStation VR 2. A lot of people still ask me if I'm ever planning on buying PSVR 2. I definitely am, but I'm really, and I was surprised we didn't get this at the showcase. I really wanted to get an update on Firewall Ultra, because Firewall Ultra, to me, that's like the game that's going to get me. Like, I want to be there day one for that. So I hope we hear about that soon. And we have Zombie Dragon also gifting a membership as well. Thank you so much, Zombie Dragon. I appreciate that, bud. Appreciate that support. That brings us up to 95 members today, which is wild. That's nearly 100 members, guys. Thank you. Crispy Mango, you're saying, thanks for the membership, Exley. Also, MBG, it's pronounced Symbiote. I've been saying like Symbiote. Yeah, you're probably right. I think I've been saying it wrong this whole time. Symbiote, like oatmeal. Appreciate that, man. Sal, you're saying, I hope Xbox is doing an unpredicted move like what they did at the Game Awards 2019, just to get Sony to do an amazing showcase in 2020. Well, yeah, I mean, the competition definitely felt more fierce in 2019 than it does now. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that Xbox revealing their new console, as well as Hellblade 2 at the Game Awards, I think that did add a little bit of pressure to Sony's 2020 showcase, where they're like, look, you know, we got to make sure we wow people here. So, yeah, I agree with you, man. I agree with you, Sal. So I appreciate that super chat, buddy. And Carlos, you're saying, you can't tell me Corey isn't a closet millionaire, MBG. I have no idea. Corey claims he's not a millionaire, but maybe he is. Corey, are you a millionaire? No, he can't be a millionaire because he's actually a billionaire. Technically, he's not lying when he says he's not a millionaire, because he's a billionaire. That's funny. Nah, but really, I appreciate the support, man. It's secretly Corey Barlog. That's funny. Well, he does have a Kratos picture there. He does have a Kratos picture there. All right, so I do want to move on to the next topic here. I know for people who are tuning into the stream afterwards, they get a little bit frustrated when I seem to be all over the place. It's the nature of the live streams. But the next topic I want to talk about here is a pretty, I think this is a significant one. If you are a Metal Gear Solid fan, this is something you're definitely going to want to pay attention to. I have an article here. Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake will reuse the voice lines from the original. Konami spoke obtusely about the cast for the Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake, noting that it would have all of the original voice characters. However, the company has been much more direct now and explained that the remake will, in fact, reuse voice lines from the 2004 original. Tommy Williams, the head of communications in the Americas for Konami, gave a more detailed response to The Verge. According to Williams, the game will, quote, reuse the voice lines from the original game with no changes, end quote. While heavily implying some form of vocal continuity between the two games, the original statement left some room for interpretation, since it having the original voice characters wasn't the most clear way to put it. A longtime Snake actor David Hayter also cheekily gave credence to the notion that he was returning in some form through a post and liking select tweets about Metal Gear Solid. The initial wording meant that it could have been a completely new recording with the same or similar cast, like what we saw for Dead Space, Final Fantasy VII, and RE4 remakes, but it was also possible that Konami would go down The Last of Us Part 1 route and reuse the same dialogue, which ended up being the case. It's also a possible reason why the reveal trailer didn't have any dialogue. Regardless, Konami has not released any footage of the older dialogue in action, and it's unclear when that day will come. So this, to me, was definitely very important news, and I'm glad we got clarification and confirmation that the original voiceovers that we have from the 2004 game are going to be carried over to the remake. Now, I think that some people, well, I know for a fact that there are going to be people who have different opinions on this. My opinion is this is perfect. This is perfectly fine. I can't say that I played Metal Gear Solid 3 recently, but from what I recall, and I actually did listen to some codecs recently, that is something I did do. From what I can recall, the voice acting was great. I think some of it is a little bit campy, some of it can be a little bit cringe, but I think that's just the nature of, that's the charm, part of the charm of a Metal Gear Solid game. Would it have been cool if they completely re-recorded everything with all of the original or most of the original voice actors? I do think that would be cool. However, I just don't know that that's needed, and I don't know that this is a bad move. I think that some people might feel like this is lazy on Konami's part, and I get that. I mean, there's no denying that just porting over the original lines and not touching up anything and not changing anything can come off as lazy, but I would argue this is the smartest thing for Konami to do for multiple reasons. The first and most obvious is it confirms they're not rewriting anything. They're not messing around with that. I think that's the most important thing, because they could have done that, and that could have ended in I don't want to say disaster, but that could have ended very poorly. So it confirms that, and it also confirms, in my opinion, the most important thing, David Hayter as Snake. I mean, would it have been cool to know that David Hayter came back to re-record this game and you know, give a more, I guess, modern take on Snake, or an updated version? Yeah, that would have been cool. But one of the biggest and most disappointing things I remember learning about Metal Gear Solid 5 was the fact that David Hayter was no longer going to be voicing Snake, and he was being replaced by Kiefer Sutherland. That I remember at that time, that felt devastating as a Metal Gear fan, because David Hayter is Snake, man. He's Snake, he's Big Boss, he's both. And his voice is legendary. It's iconic. And I think that this is the best way they could have done it. I mean, is there a chance that some of it may seem a little bit, some of the dialogue may seem a little bit out of place with these cutting edge, nearly photorealistic graphics? Yeah, potentially. But again, I feel like I'd rather that than find out either A, they tried to rewrite things and it just, it made the game lose some of its charm, or B, they got a new voice cast and it just doesn't, they just don't sound as good. And no David Hayter. That would have been the most disappointing thing Konami could have done. And so I do understand that some people feel like maybe this is lazy and they're just trying to make a quick buck. I get that, but from my perspective, hey man, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater is nearly a perfect game to me. If the only thing they're doing, and that's another thing we can bring up here, because this is a question a lot of people have had, and it's a great question. Are they just modernizing the graphics? Is this a Demon's Souls level remake where it is a 1-to-1 remake and all we can expect are better visuals and everything else remains exactly the same? Level design, level layout, gameplay mechanics, the camera. Is all of this going to be exactly the same? So I cannot confirm that, obviously. Nobody can, except for Konami. But based off of everything we're hearing, it seems likely that's what we're going to get. Now, I do have one thing I want to add to this. And they also, I don't think they confirmed what engine they're using either. I think a lot of people are hoping to find out that they're using the Fox engine. I see you guys mentioning crouching. Yeah, I don't think you could crouch in MGS3 if memory serves. Yeah, I don't think crouching was a mechanic. Yeah, that is the biggest concern to me. I have to be completely honest with you. My biggest concern with Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater is if they decide they're not changing any gameplay mechanics, that the way this game feels to play is the exact same way the HD collection version feels to play. I might end up feeling slightly disappointed by that. Not heavily, just slightly. And the reason being is because, again, if memory serves, I feel like there are some aspects of MGS3's gameplay that simply don't hold up that well. And the biggest that I can think of, I mean, you talk about crouching. I mean, if they were to add crouching, I don't know that it would dramatically change the gameplay up that much. It could, but that won't feel like it's a big deal if that's missing. But the aiming mechanics, the biggest thing that was added to the gameplay of the Metal Gear Solid series after MGS3, it was added starting with MGS4 and it carried over to MGS5, is over-the-shoulder aiming. Now, you could always aim in first person, and that's a mechanic that's there with MGS3. You can aim in first person, but there was no actual, proper over-the-shoulder third-person aiming. And I feel like it would be a very wise decision, and probably not a difficult thing to do, to add that in. Now, again, if I remember correctly with Metal Gear Solid 3's gameplay, you could not... I'm going to be looking to my chat to confirm or deny this. When you were firing a weapon in Metal Gear Solid 3, and I'm pretty sure you fired with square, you could move your character while firing. Like you could run around and fire your weapon. But when you got into first person, you had to stay stationary. Am I remembering this correctly? I'm pretty sure I am. And we have Hellbound 1981. Hellbound joining the stream and gifting another 5 memberships. Let's get some W's in the chat for Hellbound. Thank you so much, man. I think that does it. That crushes our goal of 100 members. Thank you guys so much. That's why I'm always impressed with this community. had a goal today once again of just 25, and you guys brought it up to 100. That's incredible. That's a huge milestone. I would play the nuke, but as I told you guys, I had to remove that. So I'll give you another Keanu there. And a little Arnold laugh. So thank you, Hellbound. I appreciate that. Carlos, you're saying you sit on a throne of lies, Corey. Perfect Image, you're saying, hey, bro, people are saying to just Bungie. I think you're saying they're saying that Sony should get rid of Bungie, if I'm reading you correctly. And you're saying in Metal Gear Solid, can you tell me a little? This would be my first. Well, you know what? Here's what I can tell you, Perfect Image. You're basically asking, can I give you information on Metal Gear Solid, the upcoming remake, because it would be your first time playing? Honestly, it would be best if I told you nothing, because this Metal Gear Solid Delta would be the best place for you to start. It's in the timeline of the Metal Gear series. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, the one that's being remade, is the first game in the timeline. So there's really not much for me to tell you, other than it's a third-person action stealth game with some incredible mechanics. When it comes to the story of Metal Gear, I'm not even going to attempt to begin to explain it, because it's just so... Anybody who knows the Metal Gear story would agree with me when I say it cannot be summed up in a couple minutes. Like I really can't. All I'm going to tell you is that you play Snake and you're going on a top secret mission, and stuff gets crazy. So, but yeah, I did see you guys confirming in the chat that I was correct, where in MGS 3, when you're shooting a weapon or firing a weapon, you're pressing square. To do so, you can run around, but you have very little accuracy. Like, you really, it's keep in mind, when you're running around firing your weapon in MGS 3, you're not doing so over the shoulder. Like, you're not, it's just incredibly inaccurate, and really nobody is playing that way. I do think there was an auto aim mechanic. Could be wrong about that. I know in the multiplayer there was an auto aim mechanic, and that was not fun, because who wants to use auto aim? But this is where I don't know, man. If they were to add an over the shoulder viewpoint when firing your weapon, I think all that would need to happen, it's very simple. If they want to keep the exact gameplay mechanics, just give the player the ability to toggle between aiming in first person or aiming in third person over the shoulder with a tight reticule. And you can't move. If you're aiming in third person, you can't move. I think that's the trick. Because if they added... In MGS 4 and in MGS 5, when you aim down sights over the shoulder, you can still move. I think if you were to add that to Metal Gear Solid 3, it would break the game. Now, there is always the possibility that Konami might not add any of these things. Like, they might really just decide, like, we're just doing a one-to-one remake. I am worried about that. I can't lie, because I am concerned that Metal Gear Solid 3's gameplay simply will not hold up that well as, you know, in modern day. Like, do you guys think I'm off the mark on that? Do you guys think I'm wrong about that? I mean, I haven't played Metal Gear Solid 3 in a long time. You guys don't think I'm wrong? I see you guys agreeing with me. I am a little bit worried about that. Because think of it like this. Yeah, so Konami is releasing the Metal Gear Solid Collection Volume 1 at the end of this year, which I'm definitely going to buy. Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid 2, and Metal Gear Solid 3. Now, 3 is the one being remade. Are we going to see a situation where if I boot up the Metal Gear Solid Collection Volume 1 and I choose to play Metal Gear Solid 3, and then I go to play the remake, the gameplay is exactly the same. It's 100% identical. It's just the graphics in the remake are completely overhauled. You're saying quite outdated. Yeah, I have to admit, guys, this makes me nervous because you have to imagine with Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, a lot of people are going to be coming into this fresh. I mean, even in our chat here, Perfect Image, it's going to be his first time. I'm assuming you're picking up the game when it comes out. First time playing. I'm nervous that if they don't make significant changes to the gameplay and make it more, modernize it essentially a little bit, it's going to turn a lot of people off, and a lot of people's first experience with Metal Gear is going to end up being a less than ideal one because of that. And that makes me nervous. That makes me a little bit nervous. You're saying they need to do it like Capcom did with the RE series. I agree that would be ideal, but I don't know, man. So Konami has released screenshots of the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, and in looking at those screenshots, it really does seem to confirm that they are not expanding the game in any way. And I'm trying to think, guys, with Resident Evil 2 remake, did they expand any areas in that game? Did they expand? I feel like they did, right? Or did they not? Because in Resident Evil 4, yeah, I guess it's just, I see you're saying in some parts they did. Yeah, I mean, I just played Resident Evil 4 Remake most recently, and I feel like some areas were kind of expanded a little bit. But yeah, I think just to keep my expectations in check, I'm going to assume that the Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater remake, I'm going to assume that it's going to basically be like a Demon's Souls remake where the only thing they're doing is upgrading the graphics and making the graphics look cutting edge. I don't know what that end result's going to be if that's what they do, but a part of me is hopeful but not necessarily expecting that Konami makes some adjustments and some changes to modernize the gameplay. But the point of this specific news topic that I was covering, the point of it is I'm very happy that they're doing, in my opinion, the smart thing and sticking with the original voice lines and the voiceovers, because I would have been very concerned if they were like, we're re-recording them but with different actors, or we're rewriting it. That I would be very concerned if they did any of those things. So yeah, if there's any changes that Konami's going to make, I want it to be with gameplay. Now, the final point I want to add to this before I read these super chats and move on to the next topic is, as far as I'm aware, Konami has not said a single word about the gameplay. Unless I missed something, unless something went under the radar for me, I have not seen them mention anything about gameplay. So I feel like there's a reason for that. It's either because they actually do have some changes and they're planning on just showing them rather than talking about them, or they're afraid to say that they haven't changed anything. Now, I do want to just say I'm more inclined to believe that maybe they did actually make some gameplay changes, and the reason why they're not willing to say that and talk about it is because it might get people concerned. Because it's like, uh-oh, Konami's going to ruin Kojima's masterpiece. It might just be smarter where whatever gameplay changes you've made, when you're ready to show the gameplay, show it. Show, don't tell, basically. just a little theory of mine. So we'll see. You're hoping we get gameplay at Summer Game Fest. That would be quite the surprise. I'm not expecting Metal Gear to show up at Summer Game Fest because we just finally got the reveal at the PlayStation Showcase. I feel like that would be too soon. But hey, if we do end up getting it, that'd be awesome. PS Gamer, you're saying, as a big Metal Gear Solid fan, I am nervous from Konami's development team. All I wish from the remake is to have Metal Gear Solid 5 gameplay. MBG, give us your list of your favorite Metal Gear Solids. So, yeah, that's a tough one, dude. Well, for the first part of your super chat, I do not anticipate we're gonna get Metal Gear Solid 3 gameplay. Now, hold on. I need some clarification here. In Metal Gear Solid 3, you can lie prone. You can go prone on the ground. But you can't crouch, right? Like, I just want to make sure I'm not misremembering. I know you can go prone and lie on the ground, but you cannot crouch. You're saying no, you can't. Okay. Yeah, so that's interesting. I never thought about that. He went prone next to the end. He fell asleep on you. You can crouch, just not move. Oh, okay. There we go. I knew I was forgetting something. I'm like, I could have swore you could crouch in that game because I found it so strange. Like, wait, you can go prone, but you can't crouch? And then you're right. You can go crouch, but you can't maneuver and walk around. You can only stay still. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now it's all coming back to me. You crouch, and if you move the stick while you're crouched, you'll automatically go prone. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know if they're going to incorporate MGS 5 gameplay. I doubt it. They could take a couple of the mechanics, but full-blown Metal Gear Solid 5 gameplay, like being, dropped into Metal Gear Solid 3, nah, I don't think that would work. They would have to change too many things. And when it comes to my list of favorite Metal Gear games, it's like, I don't know that I can give you a list, man. And the reason being is because when I think of each game has so many standout moments and so many unique interactions and story beats and different gameplay. I can say from a story perspective, MGS 5 was my least favorite. I like the tone that Kojima went for with the story of MGS 5, but I just feel like it was lacking a lot of the elements from a story perspective. And I think the reason for that was because he was trying to do open world and pick your own missions and stuff. So I get that. Saying, come on, bro, give us a list. Well, the two games that are fighting for the top of my list, the two games that are fighting for the number one spot are Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots and Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. The reason being is because I distinctly remember each experience clear as day, and I distinctly remember feeling from both a gameplay but also story perspective that I don't think I've played anything. Like, I felt after completing those games that every other game might be ruined because that's just how good it was. Now, obviously, Snake Eater I played before MGS 4, so I feel like I feel like I have to give. That's so tough, man. Like, I feel like from a story perspective, I actually enjoyed Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater the most. Like, Snake Eater had just the most. I don't want to say interesting story, but it just, I don't know, that it was a simple story but also somewhat convoluted but not overly convoluted. I loved MGS4's story a lot, but a big reason why I loved MGS4's story was because it was basically like 90 not 90 but like 60% of MGS4 story was fan service. So it's obviously you're gonna love MGS4 story if you like the Metal Gear series because it's fan service. But from just an original story perspective, I think MGS3 Snake Eater is my favorite. And that's why I'm so excited for this remake. From a gameplay perspective, I think MGS4 is by far my favorite. I actually enjoyed MGS4's gameplay more than MGS5's, mainly due to the Octocamo. MGS5, from a gameplay perspective, I got to give it a lot of credit because it really smoothed out the gameplay. Like MGS5's gameplay feels buttery smooth, and that is what makes me nervous about the MGS3 remake, because it's like, yeah, MGS3, if you go play it, I know for a fact it's not going to feel anywhere near as smooth. So number one, I'll probably have to give, oh God, I don't know, man. I don't know. I want to say 4, but I want to say 3. But I can say that MGS2 was a huge game for me as well, but from a gameplay perspective, I didn't enjoy MGS2 as much. But the story blew my mind. MGS2 story was utterly mind-blowing. And MGS1, obviously, it's MGS1 to me is like, it's up there as well. It's the start of it, you know. It is like, this is what Metal Gear Solid is, you know. I love them all, man. I love them all. I love all that Metal Gear games. And I enjoyed Peace Walker a lot as well. Portable Ops was pretty good, but Peace Walker was actually way better than I expected it to be when I played it. So I can't give you like just a numbered list, man. They're all too good. They're all too good. And I guess the final thing I'll say here is, I know I keep saying that, but this really will be the final thing. It's worth noting that Konami did confirm they will do more Metal Gear Solid remakes if the fans want them. Like, basically, if people end up buying this game and supporting it, and the fans are like, yeah, this is good, do more. They will do more. They will do more. So that is very interesting to me, because you have to assume that they have made some gameplay changes to MGS3 Remake, right? Because if they're already saying like, yeah, we'll definitely consider remaking like MGS1 or MGS2 if you guys enjoy this one, but those games would definitely need 100% big gameplay changes. So I don't know, man. I don't know. We will see soon enough, hopefully. Namco888, thank you for the super sticker, man. I appreciate it. Carlos, you're saying over 600 watching and less than 200 likes. Hit the like button, people. Keep up the good work, MBG. Your streams keep me from going crazy at work. And I'm an Xbox guy. Well, I appreciate that, bud. I appreciate that. And yeah, let's listen to Carlos, guys. Please take a moment. Just hit that like button for me. I'd really appreciate it. Definitely helps the streams. Omen86, you're saying Sony showed all the big upcoming third-party titles that will be released for the year. And they showed it first. Now the novelty is gone. What is Xbox going to show? Just first party? The pressure's on. Yeah, that is something that I didn't really put too much thought into, but you have to imagine at least some of the third-party games that were present at the PlayStation Showcase will likely show up at the Xbox Showcase. But I imagine Microsoft is also going to have some, at least a few third-party games that haven't been announced yet. But with that, I do think that there's a heavy expectation from Microsoft's first party where, I mean, look, we can talk about PlayStation Showcase and how they didn't have enough first party, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. But we can at least give Microsoft or Sony the credit that their first party has been very consistent and doing a great job for many years now. And so I'm not saying that gives Sony a pass necessarily for having a weaker first party showing at their showcase, but it's a matter of just giving credit where it's due, and I think that does alleviate a little bit of the pressure. To whereas with Microsoft, I think they're in pretty much the opposite boat where Microsoft has to have a major first-party presence at their show simply for the fact that their first-party releases have been inconsistent and sporadic, and the quality's also been inconsistent year over year. So more than ever, I think, especially after coming off of Redfall, Microsoft needs to have a very strong first-party showing. Like, you know, I don't think anybody would be able to give Microsoft a pass at all if they have a really weak first-party showing. So is it going to be all first-party? Certainly not. A lot of Microsoft Showcase, a lot of it, is going to be third-party. It's an hour and a half. It's good. There's going to be a lot of third-party there, but I don't necessarily know that it's like, oh, every Xbox studio has to show up. No, it's just there needs to be certainly more than one or two studios that show up, and more importantly, the games that they show, they have to look compelling. That's what I think Microsoft is going to need. So definitely quality over quantity. But in this case, I do think Microsoft is in that rare position where it's like they need both. They need both quality and quantity when it comes to their first-party showing. So we'll see what they do. I appreciate the super chat, Omen. Laman, you're saying Schreier destroys Bethesda / Redfall in hit piece. What I guess you're saying Jason Schreier released an article, a write-up on Bethesda and Redfall. Interesting. Candlefire22, you're saying thoughts on the Stalker 2 news, hacked by Russians. That's quite unfortunate, man. I haven't been paying attention to Stalker 2 very much, so I'm not really familiar with the situation. But if what you're saying is true, Candlefire, that's depressing. I feel sorry for them. Like, they're just making a game, you know? I don't get it. Just let them make a video game. What's the big deal? But yeah, the Stalker 2 trailers that I've seen in the past, they look pretty good. The game, from a graphical perspective, it looked pretty good. And Laman, again, you're saying, God bless your family and you, MBG. You're a guru. Well, thank you for that, man. That's very kind, Laman. Thank you. I appreciate the positive vibes you're sending my way. And we're going to move on to the next topic here. But before I do, I have to update this once again because you guys are absolute beasts. I think we're at 100 members now. There we go. All right. Got that updated. We're going to move on to the next topic. Let me see. Okay, so this one is concerning. All right, this is a topic that concerns me. Report: Comcast wants to enter gaming by acquiring a big AAA publisher. A new report by Bloomberg claims that Comcast is still aggressively pursuing a gaming acquisition, possibly eyeing GTA publisher Take-Two Interactive, Electronic Arts, and others. The telecommunications giant was reportedly in talks with EA as recently as 2022, which apparently fell through. However, CEO Brian Roberts hasn't given up on his ambitions. Bloomberg claims that video games is Comcast's, quote, missing piece, end quote, and corroborated a previous report that Roberts briefly explored a deal with EA. EA is home to the popular Madden NFL video game franchise and Star Wars, which would fit in with Comcast's media portfolio. Take-Two is an interesting proposition. The company is home to some of the biggest video game franchises, and Grand Theft Auto alone makes this acquisition lucrative. Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick has previously said that although he would consider all offers of acquisition, he prefers independence, and Take-Two is certainly in a position to remain independent. Bloomberg's intelligence media analyst, Geetha, I don't know if I'm saying her name correctly, Geetha Ren, okay, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that last name, Geetha R., has gone as far as suggesting that Comcast wouldn't mind snapping up Activision Blizzard if its deal with Microsoft falls through. Roberts may also pursue some kind of partnership with Nintendo. However, these are merely speculations. But what isn't speculation, apparently, is that Comcast is looking to buy a AAA video game publisher. And, this is something that we as PlayStation players and fans definitely need to pay attention to, because as we've seen with Microsoft, they purchased Bethesda. They're still trying to get the deal through for Activision Blizzard. This is going to continue to happen. And now we're beginning to see these outside forces that are not really involved with video games, like Comcast, coming in and saying that they want to get involved. Now, here's the thing. I'm not overly concerned about it in this particular case, only because if Comcast, let's just say Comcast is able to successfully acquire a AAA video game publisher. Let's say it is Take-Two Interactive. I don't think it will be, but just as an example, I don't feel as worried, because it's likely that not much is going to change. Like, that is the one, I don't want to say benefit, because I don't know that there's a benefit to consolidation, but I will say that there is a difference between, say, like Microsoft acquiring a publisher or Sony acquiring a publisher versus like an outside force like Comcast. Because, I mean, look, Comcast, if they were to acquire a big publisher, they could do whatever they want. Chances are they're going to just release these games on everything and be a multi-platform publisher. But, we do have to acknowledge that Netflix is now in the process of really trying to create their own exclusives, and basically build their own platform. Amazon's doing that as well. Comcast may decide that they want to start doing that. And if any of these major companies decide to acquire a publisher, they might make the decision kind of like what Microsoft did with Bethesda, where, hey, we're trying to grow our own platform. Maybe the easiest way to do that is to buy something that we know people want and lock it down to just this platform. I don't think, as far as I'm aware, Comcast doesn't have any type of gaming platform, and I don't think they're even pursuing that. So I don't know that I'm like super worried about Comcast in particular, but it's definitely something we have to pay attention to, because this is going to continue. All of these companies are likely having some type of discussions at a high level with all of these bigger companies that may want to acquire them. And so, I don't really know that I have much else to say on this, but I did just want to make everybody aware, because we have been following the Activision Blizzard deal for so long. I think it's created a little bit of tunnel vision to a degree, where it's like, oh yeah, but there's also a lot of other video game publishers that could be acquired at any moment in time by anybody. So, you're saying, Space Gambler Jr. saying companies are realizing that IPs, intellectual properties, are king. Yep, it's true. Content is king. And yeah, I mean, again, it poses the question, will Sony at any point consider trying to get into some serious acquisition talks themselves with the publisher? I don't know. But I do feel confident in saying that if we continue to see the industry consolidate as it has been and as it's seemingly going to, I wouldn't be shocked if at some point in the next 5 years, Sony seriously takes a step back and is thinking, you know what, we might have to secure something of our own. I wouldn't be totally shocked. Hanzo's saying he's got to go. All right, man. We'll catch you next time. I appreciate you being here for as long as you could. Hanzo saying, got shoulders and triceps today. Stay blessed, everyone. Yeah, you hit that gym, man. Hope you get a good workout in. But yeah, so that's a topic I didn't want to dive into extensively, mainly because I don't have that much to say about it, but I just did want to make everybody aware of it. The next topic in line, and this, I don't have that much else to say on it either, but it's just interesting, and it's something I just think it's interesting. So apparently Qualcomm, if I'm saying their name correctly, is open to working with PlayStation on a new handheld system. Semiconductor company Qualcomm says it's open to working with PlayStation and Nintendo on handheld gaming devices. Speaking at Computex 2023, the company's senior vice president, Alex Katosian, revealed that Qualcomm has already been in talks with Sony, but didn't say whether they discussed the upcoming Project Q or ideas for the future. So, yeah, this is why this has caught my attention and why I find it interesting is because Qualcomm apparently confirmed that they have had talks with Sony. Now, that could simply mean that that's all it was. It was like, hey, Sony, do you want to make a new handheld? And Sony's like, nah, we're good. Could it mean that they are involved in some way with Project Q, the upcoming handheld from Sony? Maybe, but I went and I checked on the PlayStation YouTube channel. There was a video that was put out. It was of the segment of the PlayStation Showcase where Jim Ryan introduced the Project Q handheld, as well as the PlayStation 5 earbuds. And as I was skimming through the comments, man, the feedback was overwhelmingly negative in that pretty much everybody was like, Sony, if you're going to do a handheld, this isn't it. You need to do it like you did with the PSP or the PS Vita. Now, I'm not saying that Sony is going to do that. I'm not even saying that they should do that. I don't know that Sony doing another dedicated handheld would actually be a good idea. I could see that actually being a pretty bad idea. They already have PSVR 2 they have to worry about. They have to worry about the PS5, obviously, is their bread and butter, where you got to make sure you have PlayStation games constantly flowing. And some people would even say right now, Sony is even struggling with PSVR 2 as a separate platform. So throwing another dedicated handheld into the mix probably would not be good, but it's still interesting to think about. It's interesting to think that Sony may at some point decide to do something more in the handheld space. And you know what I think? I think it's going to have to do with cloud gaming, because keep in mind, like, Jim Ryan recently confirmed that they're going to be revealing a lot more about their plans with cloud going forward. And I don't really care too much about cloud gaming. I know most of you don't either, but it is something that at the very least, we're probably going to be fascinated in watching how Sony decides to handle it and what it will entail. Jim Ryan said that their plans for cloud are going to be pretty aggressive, and we're going to learn about that soon, So he's alluding to their plans. They're just not ready to reveal them. I almost wonder if Sony is going to do a dedicated cloud handheld. Because if you look at what they're doing with Project Q, like, the biggest problem with Project Q in the eyes of pretty much everybody is that it just doesn't really have a point to it. Like, okay, it's not a dedicated handheld. It's not going to have its own games. But what makes it even worse to a lot of people is Project Q relies on remote play, which means it has to be tethered to a PS5. And that's why a lot of jokes have been made that Sony made the Wii U again. But even the Wii U, I think, probably had better technology. I'm not entirely sure. Now, if Sony were to do a dedicated cloud handheld, that might very much alter what a future PlayStation handheld could look like, because at that point, you could conceivably have a portable PlayStation 5, assuming that the cloud technology that's being used in this cloud handheld was good and minimal, latency. Obviously, you need a strong internet connection. It's not going to be the same for a lot of people. Like, a lot of people are going to be like, dude, if it's not a dedicated handheld, I don't care. I don't want to play through the cloud. I don't want to do remote play. I get that. But I do think that a dedicated cloud handheld would entice more people than a dedicated remote play handheld. Because at least with a cloud handheld, you could take it anywhere. And as long as you have a good internet connection, you're connected to the cloud. You know what I mean? Because I don't know, man. How many people use remote play outside of their home successfully? Does anybody do that? I don't know. So that's just pure speculation on my part. But nonetheless, Qualcomm has confirmed that they are open to doing a new handheld for both Sony and Nintendo, and apparently they've had some type of conversation with Sony. So we'll see if anything comes of that. I just figured I would inform you guys. Perfect Image, you're saying Hip Hop Gamer said this is a marketing strategy. For Q, you're saying Project Q works for PlayStation subscription. Well, yeah, I see that. I can see that. Like, Sony wants to try to... I don't know. I don't know that Project Q is necessarily like, oh, this is going to get people to subscribe to PS Plus, but I don't know, man. If somebody already has a PS5, how many of you guys are going to buy Project Q? You're saying you use remote play at work for NBA 2K23. How is it? How is remote play, Jack? 420 Gaming says he's getting it. A lot of people saying no. Saying you beat the Orphan of Kos via remote play, and this is not a flex. It's pure stupidity and Bloodborne addiction to the highest level. I mean, even though you're saying it's not a flex, that's still a pretty good flex. That's a pretty good flex, man. Corey, you're saying it depends. Well, yeah, you're saying Jack, you're saying the game screen is super small with a bunch of button commands on the crowds. Yeah, I've thought about trying remote play, but the reason why I've never actually tried it is because I've never had a reason to. Like, I don't know, man. I don't see myself ever wanting to just play PS5 games outside of my home. Because I ultimately feel that if I try to do that, even if it was a smooth experience, it's just like, where am I? That I would, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I like that comfortable setup. I like to be relaxed and settled in when I'm playing a game. Abu Jangi, you're saying MBG, happy to see you back from that sad phase with the PlayStation Showcase. I really liked it, and it was as I expected. By the way, love the community. Thanks for the great content. Well, you're welcome, man, and I appreciate the support. Yeah, the PlayStation Showcase was a bit of a downtime. I mean, like, from a community perspective, from a YouTube channel perspective, things went incredibly well. But yeah, from my personal perspective, in terms of gaming, obviously it was a bit of a downtime. But it came and it went, and we're forging a path forward. So I appreciate that, man. And we have Omen86 saying Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver maker Crystal Dynamics is secretly playtesting a new game. Nobody talks about this. Well, the last I heard of Crystal Dynamics, they're helping Microsoft actually with Perfect Dark, the Perfect Dark reboot that their studio, The Initiative, is working on. Now, do I think that's the only game they're working on? Probably not. But that could be what that's referring to. So, saying you want to, I'm assuming you want like a legacy of another Legacy of Kain game, maybe a remaster, not a remaster, probably like a remake. I think a lot of people have been asking for that for a long time, man. Long time. Who knows? Maybe Crystal Dynamics will show up at Summer Game Fest. That's a possibility. They're working. Yeah, that's true. That's true. They did confirm the new Tomb Raider as well. So, okay, yeah. I forgot about that. I don't know how I forgot about that because that was announced not that long ago. Crystal Dynamics is working on a new Tomb Raider, and they're also working with The Initiative on a Perfect Dark remake. So I want to say it's unlikely they're working on a third project. Truthfully. There could be something else I'm missing there. But we are going to move on to the next topic here, guys. And that is Final Fantasy 16 demo listing appears on the PlayStation Store. Dun, dun, dun. All right, so actually, before I read that news article, I want to say that I pre-ordered Final Fantasy 16 today. Has anybody else noticed that, like, Amazon doesn't do day one arrival or launch day arrival on their games anymore? I've noticed this. I've went to, I used to pre-order my games I was looking forward to playing day one from Amazon. And now I noticed that they just don't offer, like, they expect me to wait like 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm a Prime member as well. So, like, you have to, at least for me, it's like, oh, you want to pre-order Final Fantasy 16? Oh, well, yeah, it'll arrive like on July 7th. And I'm like, what? Like, dude, what? The game comes out on June 22nd. However, I went to Walmart.com. And I'm not plugging them. Walmart doesn't need a plug for me. But I was just curious. I was like, does Walmart do, like, can they promise me I'll get it the day it launches? And they did. I was like, what? I was shocked. I'm like, so you're telling me Walmart can guarantee that I can get a physical copy of Final Fantasy 16 at my doorstep the day it launches, but Amazon can't? That's wild, bro. That's insane. Saying you just go to Walmart? Yeah, I could do that too. I could leave my home. That's a viable option as well. I will admit though, like, I hardly ever go shopping anymore though. Like, outside the home. I've gotten so accustomed and used to just ordering stuff. Maybe I should do that. I should start going out more. Going out is overrated. I go outside. Don't confuse that. I go outside a lot. I just mean I don't go out shopping. No, don't leave your home, MBG. Fresh air is toxic and deadly to gamers. Realistically, the air outside probably is worse for you than the air you're breathing inside, as long as your vents are not, polluted. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that because we're talking about the Final Fantasy 16 demo, and I'm excited, dude. I'm very excited for this game. I am way more excited for Final Fantasy 16 than I ever would have imagined I would be. And that's genuinely surprising to me. But anyway, a Final Fantasy 16 demo may soon be available to download if a listing appeared today on the PlayStation Store is to be believed. Several eagle-eyed Reddit users noticed that a Final Fantasy 16 demo showed up in their libraries, but only after they pre-ordered the game. It could mean that the demo is reserved for pre-order customers, perhaps for a brief time frame before it becomes available to everyone. Either way, a trial version of the 16th mainline game in the RPG franchise will be available shortly to tide fans over until the full release, scheduled on June 22nd on PS5, with a PC version coming later. As with many recent game demos, let's hope that the progress will carry over to the full game once purchased. The announcement of the Final Fantasy XVI demo could take place during Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest, which is happening on June 8th. So yeah, this is clearly a sign that this demo is getting ready to drop very soon. And yeah, I'm thinking at this point, because it's beginning to show up in the PlayStation Store, I'm thinking it's gonna be announced at Summer Game Fest. That would make a lot of sense to me. Now, the big question here is, do you need to pre-order Final Fantasy XVI in order to gain access to this demo? Well, I want to say that there will definitely be a demo available to everyone, but I could very well see them doing that. I could see them doing a situation where it's like pre-order and you get early access to the demo, and then the demo becomes publicly available like 3 days later or something like that. I could see a situation like that. It would be a pretty smart way to get people to pre-order, but then I would also have to question, like, if they were to do it like that. Take me, for example. I just pre-ordered Final Fantasy XVI through Walmart, not the PlayStation Store, because I want a physical copy. Long live physical games. Would I gain access to that demo, or would I just have to wait? I wouldn't mind waiting. But I don't know, man. I think even though that would be good for pre-orders, I think it would be really cool if you're watching Summer Game Fest, they show a trailer for the Final Fantasy 16 demo, and it just shadow drops, like, right there, like, and you can go download it now on your PS5. That would be really cool. And that'd be very exciting. But yeah, Final Fantasy 16, the demo is coming very, very soon. I don't think this is shocking to anybody, but it's a good sign. It's a good sign. And continuing to talk about Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 16's development team has stressed frequently that the upcoming action RPG is going to tell a full story with a definitive beginning and end, and that the remit of being a self-sufficient tale being so important to the game, there's also currently no plans for any post-launch DLC. However, that last bit might not be entirely set in stone. Speaking in a recent interview with Japanese outlet ASC2, producer Naoki Yoshida reiterated that Final Fantasy XVI would allow players to experience the full story, but added that depending on how it is received, post-launch expansions is something the development team will consider. First of all, we will release the main game, and if we receive positive feedback, we will consider doing something about it, he said. We have developed this work with the aim of making it a volume that you can enjoy 100% of the story and battle content if you purchase the package. That's exactly what he had to say, and I thought this was important to mention, because it's true that they did say that there are currently no plans for DLC, but it seems like maybe they've changed their minds a little bit, where it's like, well, you know, if people really end up enjoying the game that much, maybe we will consider doing some type of DLC. And I don't know what they mean by that. Like, I think it's safe to say Final Fantasy 16 is going to sell incredibly well, right? Like, we can all agree on that. What's up, Pushing Polygons? I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. You're saying so the complete opposite of Final Fantasy 15. Yeah, I guess so. Gaming Survivor says we need an open world Steven Seagal game. Oh, man. Hell yeah. We do need that. We do need that. I would play that. That would be the funniest game ever. That'd be amazing. But yeah, I think it's safe to say that Final Fantasy 16 is going to sell incredibly well. So I do wonder if Like, are they talking about doing DLC for it based off of, like, if it sells well enough, or do they mean if the story is loved enough? You know, if there's a lot of positive talk about the story and the characters, maybe they'll be like, let's do a story expansion. But I could see Final Fantasy 16 getting a big DLC. I could definitely see that. But yeah, so at this point when it comes to Final Fantasy 16, we are, we're just at that phase where it's like just a couple weeks away. Just a couple weeks away. As I said, I'm very much surprised with just how excited I am for the game. I told you guys, I was never a Final Fantasy player, and after I experienced Final Fantasy 7 Remake, and every trailer I've seen, like every glimpse of gameplay that I've seen of Final Fantasy 16, it just looks really fun. It looks really, really fun. I love the fact, I know not everybody is on board with the fact that they're going like full action mode with this game, but I really like that. I really like that they're embracing, like, let's go full action RPG, and it looks like they're doing it really well. So I'm very excited, man. I can't wait to start playing that game and talk about it with you guys. We could all talk about our experience with Final Fantasy 16. Let me see here. Zanarkan Blitzer, you're saying, MBG, please wait a couple of minutes before reading my next super chats until I finished posting my super chat thread. No problem, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate you giving me a super chat, letting me know to not read your super chats until they're all finished. No problem, man. No problem. While you're doing your super chats, I'm going to move on to the final topic. Okay? And this is exciting, I think, but not surprising. And I just wanted to mention it to you guys because it gets, I'm really excited for Spider-Man 2 because, generally speaking, it just looks really fun. It looks like more of what I love about Spider-Man PS4 as well as Miles Morales. I have an article here. Spider-Man 2 PS5 gameplay, quote, "You've seen nothing yet," end quote. This is coming from the actor who plays Peter Parker. Much has been made of the gameplay reveal for Marvel's Spider-Man 2, which debuted during the PlayStation Showcase last week. The video, which runs just over 10 minutes, features cutscenes, combat, and back-to-back set pieces in what is a breathless first look at how the PS5 exclusive will actually play. The trailer racked up some serious numbers, topping 20 million views across multiple official YouTube channels, which is, by the way, I forgot to mention that. Like, yeah, the Spider-Man 2 gameplay is making the rounds. It did accumulate over 20 million total views. That's huge. That is colossal, man. So, big time there. Although we have seen criticisms dotted about the internet, claims of it not looking current-gen enough. For example, the general consensus seems to be that it was an impressive showing. And that's just a tiny glimpse of what Spider-Man 2 has to offer, says Peter Parker actor Yuri Lowenthal. In a brief red carpet interview with IGN, the veteran video game performer commented, "You saw the gameplay drop. Some of you said, they showed too much. I assure you, you have seen nothing yet. We've just scratched the surface." And so I'm actually going to play this clip for you guys, but I have to lower it on my end so it doesn't echo. So this is what Yuri said.
You saw the gameplay drop. Some of you said, they showed too much. I assure you, you have seen nothing yet. It is, we've just scratched the surface. It is just the thwip of the Spider-Berg. If I may coin that. You may.
So hopefully that came through clearly. Hopefully that came through. But yeah, dude, Yuri, look, I know I'm not sitting here saying that anything Yuri is saying isn't obvious, but it is reassuring, and it gets me kind of hyped, where it's like, damn, dude, if you're telling me that Bossy's coming to join us. Bossy wants some love. Bossy wants some love. What's up, Bossy? You want to say hi to everybody? Are you hyped for Spider-Man 2? I think Boss is hyped for Spider-Man 2. That's what it is. Boss is hype. Oh, you want to come over here? Is that what it is? He's such a little baby. But yeah, dude, I feel like, you know, Yuri is confident in saying that Insomniac definitely didn't show too much. Yuri is confident in letting everybody know that we haven't seen anything yet with Spider-Man 2. And I do want to let you guys know, I did watch the Digital Foundry breakdown, an analysis of Spider-Man 2, and I think it was a pretty fair assessment. They mostly had positive things to say, and they acknowledged that there were significant improvements. And then they also basically said that, hey, it's more iterative. And like, this is where I feel like there's more pressure on Spider-Man 2 than there was on Horizon Forbidden West as well as God of War Ragnarok. And I think it's totally fair because it's like, well, Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok, they were both cross-gen games. And so, people reeled in their expectations, not expecting like a big next-gen, looking game, like not like a true next-gen game from these titles. To where Spider-Man 2, it's coming out, well after these games, and it's a PS5 only title. Now, I don't want to dive too much into this conversation because we've talked about it a lot, but I just will say this. I have noticed quite a few people coming to Spider-Man 2's defense, not in a fanboy way, but pretty much just saying like, look, man, some of the things, specifically, I've seen multiple people acknowledging like, how come people aren't talking enough about like how fast, like the speed, right? Like clearly, I know it's a meme at this point where it's like the PS5's SSD. It's not just the PS5's SSD. It's just the fact that it is no longer held back by the PS4 and the HDD. A lot of people have been coming out and saying like, dude, it really does seem like a next gen leap when it comes to traversal. And that I do want to give Insomniac that credit. I do want to give that credit where it's due, because it's like, look, I think it's understandable that some people are going to look at the Spider-Man 2 gameplay and be like, yeah, it does look more iterative. It looks like more Spider-Man. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Clearly, people are hyped for it. It's got over 20 million views in total. And Yuri is out here saying, yo, you guys haven't seen anything yet. But, we got to give some credit where it's due, where I think it's clear that Insomniac is trying. And I want to give them that credit, where they've done great work so far with Spider-Man PS4, Miles Morales, and obviously Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I think that they've really been trying their best to do what they can without losing sight of what they want the game to actually be. Something else that Digital Foundry pointed out, which was interesting, is the moment in the Spider-Man 2 gameplay when it asks you to I think you press square to switch to Miles. Like you're playing as Symbiote, gotta say it correctly, Symbiote Spider-Man, and it asks you to switch to Miles, and when that happens, it's instantaneous, in real time. That's another thing that I think a lot of people, including myself, didn't really pay attention to, where that is essentially the equivalent of the interdimensional teleporting that was done in Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, where you're just instantaneously switching in real time from like one scene to the next with no loading. And Digital Foundry was pointing out that was actually pretty cool. And again, it's something like mind-blowing, because yeah, I did see that people were pointing out like, man, isn't it crazy that Rockstar found a way to do that with GTA 5 on like the PS3? Granted, there were heavy load times and stuff like that, and workarounds to where this is now like instantaneous, but it's just cool, you know. I don't feel down about Spider-Man 2, and it is a little bit disheartening to see there being so much back and forth around a game that, frankly, in my opinion, it's like, guys, I think like Spider-Man 2 just looks like it's going to be a great game. You know, maybe it won't be the ultra mind-bending next-gen experience that maybe some people were expecting, but generally speaking, it looks really good, and I'm impressed by it, and I'm excited for it. And I won't lie, when I hear Yuri saying that we have, like, basically don't worry, because I have seen this, I have seen not a lot of people, but some people feeling like, I think Insomniac may have showed too much of this game, which is ironic, because it's like, it went from we've seen nothing of this game to now maybe they showed too much. It is, I think, reassuring and also a little bit exciting to hear Yuri basically say, like, guys, you have not seen anything. And the way he says it, too, I mean, could he be overhyping it? Of course. And I don't want to fall for that. I want everybody to, you know, keep your expectations in check. My expectations for Spider-Man 2, this is what they are. When I buy Spider-Man 2 and I play it, I'm expecting the game to feel polished. I'm expecting it to feel fluid. I'm expecting an engaging story. I'm expecting, obviously, set-piece moments. I'm expecting some surprises as well. I'm expecting a lot from Spider-Man, but all of these things that I'm expecting, I don't feel like my expectations are too high, because I feel genuinely confident that Insomniac will be able to deliver. And so, you know, Spider-Man 2, I don't feel like we've seen too much. Truthfully, I'm open to seeing even more Spider-Man, and I don't know if that's going to happen. Like, obviously, we're going to see more trailers and stuff. Like, I don't know if Sony's going to do another full-blown gameplay demo. They might do a dedicated state of play, but I'm very excited for Spider-Man. I got to say, I'm more excited for Wolverine. I did see somebody left a comment in my video yesterday because we were talking about how Yuri is preparing to channel like a more aggressive version of Peter Parker with the symbiote suit. I'm really curious. I saw somebody in the comments say, like, man, if anything, seeing this like more aggressive Spider-Man from Insomniac gets me just even more excited to see what Wolverine's going to be like, because obviously, you know, I don't think we'll be able to. I don't think what we're going to see with Symbiote Spider-Man in terms of aggression and brutality is going to be anywhere near what we see with Wolverine. But yeah, man, like, is it safe? So, okay, here, I know this is a question that's maybe not necessary. It's definitely not. But knowing that Wolverine is going to come around the same time, or if not at the same time, but after a PS5 Pro, will these conversations be happening with Wolverine? If Sony and Insomniac reveal Wolverine with a PS5 Pro, or like running on a PS5 Pro, will these conversations be happening, or will people be like, oh, sorry, I don't mean to keep drinking so much. My throat's getting dry for some reason. So Zanarkhan, I think you're done with all your super chats here. So I'm gonna read these two super chats from Pushing Polygons and The Furious, and then I'm gonna read all of your super chats back to back. But assuming you're okay, you're talking about, I think, Metal Gear. All right. You're saying a PS5 Pro. Is my chat really delayed? I can't tell. You're saying Wolverine would be... So, okay. That's a better question I have before I read these super chats. So, one of the things that we can say about Spider-Man is that Spider-Man, not only did it likely start development on a PS4 because Spider-Man released in 2018. Obviously, it transitioned fully to being a PS5 game. But I don't know that I can feel 100% confident saying that Spider-Man 2 is a game that was built and designed from the ground up, from the floor up. Actually, no, I can safely say that's not true because we're in the same we're in the same map. So clearly, like the reality is Spider-Man 2 is a game that was designed first on PS4. I think that now that it's moved over to PS5 only, they can definitely push things a lot further, like way farther than, they would ever be able to do on the PS4. But that is interesting. I actually didn't think about that, where Wolverine is actually from the ground up, whatever this game ends up being, whether it's open world or wide linear or just straight up linear, it's being developed from the ground up with PS5 architecture and potentially now PS5 Pro architecture. I don't want to make this look. I don't want to do that thing again. This is where I'm trying to learn from my past mistakes. I'm not going to overhype Wolverine, especially because we haven't seen anything of it. But I will say that the prospect of a brand new Wolverine game where there's zero expectation, we don't know what this world's going to look like. We don't know if it's going to be open world, but they could just start from ground zero with just the PS5. That's an exciting prospect. I'm not necessarily saying I'm expecting Wolverine to be a groundbreaking game, but it gets me excited. I won't lie. So, to put in perspective how excited I am for Wolverine, so like, you guys have heard me talk about Spider-Man 2, and I've talked about just how excited I am for that game. My excitement for Wolverine pretty much dwarfs my excitement for Spider-Man. Does that give you guys a better idea of like just how excited I am for Wolverine? Like, because Wolverine is I think my top, I don't know that he's my number one favorite hero or like comic book hero, but he might, I think he might be number one, man. He might be number one. So I love Spider-Man. I've always liked Spider-Man, but Wolverine is my guy. And, I talked to you guys, you had me go back and watch my own reaction to the announcement of Wolverine. And so, I love Batman as well. I like the Punisher, but it is genuinely a dream come true to have a studio like Insomniac Games, knowing their pedigree, to be able to handle developing a modern day AAA Wolverine game. I mean, that is, I don't know that there's many other things that could top that level of excitement and intrigue, and I can't wait, man. Like, I think that's one of the things I'm excited about is like, okay, Spider-Man 2's coming. I'm very excited for it. Looks like an incredible game, but going into 2024, and I'm not trying to look too far ahead. I'm trying to appreciate what's in front of me, but just knowing that next year, dude, we're gonna see Wolverine. That's. Dude, to think in 2024, not only are we going to see Wolverine from Insomniac, but then we're probably actually gonna see some gameplay of this Metal Gear Solid Delta remake, and who knows, maybe it could release in 2024. Dude, 2024 could be insane. All right, I'm starting. You can tell the hype man's starting to come out now. Let me reel it back in a little bit. Let me reel it back in. All right, so. Pushing Polygons, you're saying, recently heard a complaint that all the games were the same, comparing combat being ripped from DMC. Do you think this is true? How many different games would you take the same style before being out? Well, to me, that's what's interesting about modern day games and just modern day game design is I do feel that as time has went on, a lot of developers and a lot of studios, it's almost like a kind of trial and error type thing, right? Where there's all these different genres of games, there's all these different styles of gameplay, but I do feel that there is kind of like everybody's just kind of been pushing towards a singular. So like if we take just the just if we go with the shooter genre, right? It's like a lot of people would say Call of Duty is probably the best in terms of gameplay. That doesn't mean, CSGO is still incredibly popular, right? A lot of people would say that's the best. But it's just like, once developers kind of hone in on like, this is how you do it, and anything else that doesn't really do it this way and tries to deviate from it, it could work, but it probably isn't going to be as good. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's Destiny, of course. But it's like they all kind of share a fundamental similarity in that if you play Destiny, if you play Call of Duty, the game, like the actual gunplay, it has to feel just totally engaging and totally just, I don't say, I guess I'll say next level, because going forward, most developers who are going to make a first-person shooter are probably going to try to copy that template. You know, like, we want this to feel like, because even if you think about Destiny, like Destiny, it's iterative, and it's iterating off of Halo. You know, and even to a degree, you could say Call of Duty kind of was inspired by the Halo's FPS mechanics. But anyway, before I really make this long-winded, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't think it's a problem when video games and developers decide to copy mechanics and even a certain feel of another game that just nailed it. I think the best example of this is the Souls genre, right? Like, how many Souls-like games, Soulsborne games have been created that weren't made by From Software, but actually felt pretty good? And the reason why they felt pretty good is because they tried to essentially copy the gameplay of the Soulsborne titles a lot. And if you try to imagine, like, well, what if they didn't copy that gameplay formula? Could it have still been a good game? I mean, even just if you look at Lords of the Fallen, which is coming out this October, I mean, that straight up looks like Dark Souls 4, and I'm not complaining. You know, like I don't, as somebody who enjoyed all three Dark Souls games thoroughly and Elden Ring, sounds good to me. I'm interested in the fact that it's a different developer doing it, because it does leave more room where it's like, well, they can do some things differently, you know, that maybe From Software wouldn't have done or wouldn't have thought to do, potentially. And you talk about like Final Fantasy 16 and the fact that, it looks like it's going to feel too much like Devil May Cry. And I mean, to me, that's like, well, I understand that to some people that might be a kind of turn off, because like, I'm looking to play Final Fantasy, not Devil May Cry. But then when I think of Devil May Cry's gameplay, I'm like, dude, that's some of the best like real-time action gameplay there is. And if the developers at Final Fantasy are like, we kind of want our gameplay to feel like that, I don't have a problem with that. Like, if it can feel just as good, if not better, I don't see a problem there. MBG, you beat Dark Souls 2? I did, yeah. Dark Souls 2 is underrated, straight up. I'm just going to say it right now. Dark Souls 2 is an underrated game. I understand that it was never going to live up to what Dark Souls 1 was, or what a Dark Souls sequel was expected to be, but Dark Souls 2 was a great game, and it was underrated. I will die on that hill. But yeah, I think it's a good question, pushing polygons. I think for me personally, if I see that a like, again, using the Lords of the Fallen game, because I'll be honest, like, when I saw that gameplay, I'm like, dude, if you told me this was Dark Souls 4, I would have believed you. That's how similar it looks. My only thing is, if a developer's gonna like essentially copy a gameplay formula almost to a T. My only request is please try to add at least a couple of things to it that allow it to stand out on its own. You know what I mean? I know that that's what developers try to do no matter what, because it's just never a good look if you just straight up like copy and paste another title's gameplay like and mechanics and just complete like just shamelessly. There always has to be a little something added to give it its own unique flair, even if it's to its detriment. But I think that's important, and that for me is what it comes down to in any game. It's like why I've never agreed with the notion talking about PlayStation games where it's like, oh, they're all the same game. They're just third person, over the shoulder, open world narrative. And it's like, okay, yeah, they all have these things in common. But I think people are literally kind of crazy to insinuate that playing Days Gone feels the same as playing Horizon, feels the same as playing Spider-Man. It's like, not at all, dude. They all have their own unique feel to them, you know? And even like a Ghost of Tsushima, right? Like a lot of people have talked about Ghost of Tsushima. It's basically just being like a better version of Assassin's Creed or you know, the best version of Assassin's Creed without actually being an Assassin's Creed game. But I think if you think about it, it's like, well, why is that? Probably because there are certain aspects of this that make it unique and it make it stand out, you know? So it's an interesting question, man. It's a difficult question because there's a lot to unpack with it. I think a lot of times when talking about video games, video game development, video game mechanics, video game design, we tend to simplify things, and I think we do that just for the sake of trying to understand, because video games are a complicated thing. We do know that, and it's a very difficult thing. And so I don't like speaking about it in any definitive sense. All I know is that almost every video game developer has a desire to create something that they feel is unique, even if in doing so they're basically seemingly creating something that has already been done before. And that's why it's like I tend to fall in this trap where if we look at Haven Studio, you know, I pretty much said that this game, Fair Games, I don't know if it's called Fair Game or Fair Games, I don't know how you say it because the S is a money sign, but I remember like my instinctive gut reaction when I saw that trailer. Sorry, I just hit my mic. My instinctive gut reaction when I saw that trailer was, this looks like a joke. And there, you know, immediately there were some people who were like, hey man, like, give it, you know, we don't know this game could be good. And that's where I try to like realize, you know what, I don't want to be that type of person where it's like, I'm unhappy with the fact that it's a CGI trailer because I don't know what this game is. And a lot of what I think the reason why I came to that conclusion immediately was because a lot of what I saw in that trailer, it did not look very original, just from a visual, just kind of like standpoint when it comes to a live service game. But I don't want to be so cynical as to assume that Haven Studio, you know, first party PlayStation studio led by Jade Raymond. Apparently Mark Cerny's had some type of involvement. I don't want to be so cynical as to assume that, well, yeah, they're just looking to rip off like a Ubisoft game because that's what they used to do. You know what I mean? And they're just going to copy and paste all the things that we've come to expect, and that'll be that. It could be what it is, but I do want to try at times to take a step back and be a little bit more open to like, hey, maybe it will surprise me. Maybe, you know, this game, wouldn't that be a funny thing? It's like I laugh at Fair Game at its trailer because I'm like, this just looks like a joke. And it's like the gameplay comes out. It's like, dude, this is some of the most refreshing, exciting gameplay, PvP gameplay I've experienced in years. You know, I mean, that's a possibility. I'm not assuming that, but you know, it's a question. Pushing polygons, it's a good question because it just kind of gets me thinking about all of these different games, because there's like more games than ever before, and everybody's making a game, and there are so many games that look similar. There's so many games that look unique. There's so many games that look maybe even initially not good, but yeah, it's I guess to simplify my answer, because I know this was incredibly long-winded, pushing polygons. I think it's just a matter of trying to be a little bit open-minded, at least for me. And I think the more open-minded I can be, the more willing I am to just really actually look at a game for what it is, what it's trying to do, and it makes it a little bit easier for me to identify whatever good might be there, even if something to me seems like, you know, like even Foam Stars, right? Like Foam Stars was a game that, you know, got crushed, but it's like, you know, I'm sure there's at least something there that the developers tried to do that they thought, hey, maybe this will be cool. Maybe this will be a little bit different. Maybe I'm being too optimistic here, but yeah. Stop backtracking, MBG. No, I'm not backtracking anything, man. I'm just trying. Look, I'm not backtracking. I'm just tired of dwelling in the negative so much, man. It's heavy. It's heavy, man. Like, it is. Anybody who does it knows, like, it adds weight, and it makes things feel heavier than they need to be at times. I'm not trying to be toxic. I'm not trying to push toxic optimism, but because I think that's bad too. I just think it's about trying to be more balanced in that there's good and there's bad in everything, and it's better to try to identify both rather than just one or the other. So I appreciate the super chat, pushing polygons. The Furious, you're saying, remember the PlayStation 5 dev kit demo in 2020, Spider-Man PS4, when they showed how fast you could traverse if not being held back by the HDD. This is that realized. And you know what, actually, The Furious, that is the first thing that popped into my mind. I don't know why I didn't mention it, but yes, that is exactly what popped into my mind, even as I was watching it live and we saw Miles Morales open his wingsuit and just start flying through that city, man. Like, that demo did pop into my mind because they showed on Spider-Man PS4, like, this is what happens if we try to go that speed on the PS4's HDD, and everything just started to freeze and stutter, and then it just like crashed basically. And they showed this is what we can do on the PS5, and it was exactly that, man. Except it was like in first person, where it's just you're just flying, and you know, I think that I think ultimately it's a welcome improvement that I think at this point might be a little bit underappreciated, just a little bit. Like, I think most people are appreciative of, like, man, it looks like they really are doing some serious improvements to the traversal and the speed of the traversal in Spider-Man 2. But yeah, man, it is crazy to think that with that demo, Sony did show, like, this is what would happen if we tried to do it on the PS4. That one, Larry, dude, you're saying criticism is not toxicity. We are past this, MBG. No, you're not. You're absolutely correct. I'm not saying being critical is toxic. I'm saying that there are times where basically when I'm done being critical, I'm ready to move on and try to find something to be happy about and feel good about. That's all I'm saying. Because you're right. Like, criticism is very important in my opinion. It's necessary. You can't improve without being critical, but I do think that sometimes being critical and just being critical in general, and this is not just for video games, this is for life, it can be a trap where before you know it, you're being overly critical about everything, and then it becomes incredibly difficult to enjoy anything. And before you know it, all you're noticing is the bad in things. And that's where I think just a little bit of recalibration, a little bit of rebalancing can go a long way. So, You're saying pushing polygons, you're saying in general we call it constructive criticism versus negativity. Yeah. Yeah, I do think they're two different things, you know. Constructive criticism is exactly that. It's self-explanatory. It can be constructive. Negativity, I mean, I do believe in tough love to a degree, and I think that's an important factor here, because it's like you can be hard on something and you can even come off as kind of negative, but if it really comes down to what's your true intent. And to me that's what it boils down to. And only the individual, only oneself can determine what your true intent is. And that is what's important. And you know, that's why I think sometimes maybe people think I do, you know, I do go back and forth too much, and I seem like I'm trying too hard to be positive about things. And it's not, maybe it does come off that way, but I know what my intent is. And it's very simple. My intent is I just want to be happy. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to be a happy person that's enjoying my life. And with this thing that means so much to me, that being video games, I want to feel good about them, man. And I know that I can't live in some kind of bubble and pretend like no bad things exist here. Not at all. Many bad things exist here. But I just feel like it's a matter of like, you know, there are many areas in which a slight tuning of your perception can be all the difference that's needed. And you know what I found for me? Here's the biggest thing. If there's something that I don't like, say my piece, give my thoughts, and move on and find the thing I do like. And I think that's the problem with our society, because we live in a society. I think that's the problem with modern day society. And I not only have I seen it, not only do I still see it, but I've experienced it firsthand myself. It's that people tend to want to, they find themselves attracted to the negativity. And before people know it, it's like they're consumed by this vicious cycle of negativity where it's like you start to get completely away from like, but what about the things you do like and enjoy? You know, you could spend your time engaged with that. You get what I'm saying? We live in a society. Yeah. And I'm going to read these super chats. They're just a little bit mixed up here. Nemesis, you're saying, hey man, don't stop being who you are. Being a hype man, as you called it earlier, is one of the things that makes you special. Criticism is only fair. And yeah, and that's the thing, man. The reality and my truth is that you're right. I can't stop being who I am. And it's not necessarily about changing who I am. It's about self-improvement. You know, I feel like that's a struggle in life where it's always like there is the person you are now, and then there is the I guess you could say the ideal version of the person you want to be. And it's always a difficult line to walk where it's like you don't want to go too far in either direction, because I think that if you are totally and completely 100% unapologetically accepting of yourself, there's good to that, but I think it can be bad, because a lot of times people who do that, they fall into a trap of sometimes narcissism and even like, oh, I don't need to improve anything. Like, I'm perfectly fine the way I am. And you know what? That's not my place to judge. If that's what a person thinks, they're free to think that. But I don't feel comfortable thinking that way. For me, I've always kind of felt like, well, I think there always has to be some room for improvement. Like, there's always something that I can do better with and improve upon. And then that's where the idea of like the ideal version of the person I would like to be, how do I merge these two things together? And so, you know, so I know that was like way deeper than it had to be, but you mentioned the hype man. That's my reality, man. There will be moments where I'm not thinking about being a hype man. I am the hype man, because that's genuinely how I feel. But I just think that ultimately, as a person on this YouTube channel who runs this channel, I would benefit greatly from a little bit more critical thinking from time to time, in the sense of, don't just be led by emotion, but think, think a little bit deeper than just what you're feeling on the surface. And I think that'll help me in life in general. So you guys are on this journey with me. We're on a journey of self-actualization here. But I appreciate the super chat, Nemesis. And we got PlayStation Pete. You're saying ColtEastWood said the reason the PS5 has games like Spider-Man Miles Morales at launch is because it was a reskin of a PS4 game, Spider-Man 2018. Well, I mean, I feel like to call it a reskin is kind of strange, because it's like, it's not even a reskin. It's literally like the same game. It's the same map. It's a new character with new abilities, but I don't like, that's the type of argument that I see people trying to make, not just with PlayStation games, but with games in general, where it's like people are comparing the new Zelda game to the old Zelda game, God of War Ragnarok to God of War 2018, and inevitably something like Miles Morales to Spider-Man 2018. It's like, guys, this is what is known in the not just the video game industry, but in all things, as a iterative sequel, just a sequel. And I think, look, it's easy to get caught up in the rhetoric, right? Like, it's easy to criticize a game like maybe even Spider-Man 2, because that type of rhetoric could be an extend to Spider-Man 2. Well, Spider-Man 2 is just a reskin, just like an improved reskin, right? It's just DLC, whatever it is, whatever rhetoric that people want to put forward. But it's like, okay, that's bait. Let's take a step back. Let's ask yourself on an individual level, do you think this game looks good and fun? And if the answer is no, then nothing else matters. It doesn't matter what ColtEastWood has to say. It doesn't matter what MBG has to say. It doesn't matter what Digital Foundry has to say. It doesn't matter what Sony has to say. If you don't think the game looks fun, don't buy it. Go find a game that you do think looks fun. Now, if you do think the game looks good and you do think it looks fun, well then, my question to you at that point is, does that matter? Does me or anybody else saying that this game looks like a reskin, does that matter to you? And only you can decide that. So, I guess all I'm trying to say here is, make up your own mind on a game, man. Like, and I'm speaking to myself as much as I'm speaking to anybody listening right now. Ignore the noise, because it doesn't matter. You as a person are going to, if you don't know by now, you probably do, go with your own instinct. And if you do that, you'll probably end up satisfied. If you see a game and your gut tells you, that 10-minute gameplay demo, not feeling it. Doesn't look that fun to me. Just not interested. You're probably right. There's literally no amount of marketing in the world that could sell you on that game, and you probably would be better off just saving your money. But if you are somebody who does see it and you think, you know what? I think I want to play this game. Everything else in between, it is just noise, dude. And me included. And that's just the truth of the matter. And that's why a lot of people end up deciding, which noise do you want to listen to? You ever notice that? It's like, because that's the thing, like, people who listen to ColtEastWood say something like that. And it's not just ColtEastWood, but other people who are like, oh, it's just a reskin. If you're in agreement with that statement, like, oh yeah, dude, look at that. Miles Morales, it's just a reskin. That's why it came out so soon. It's again, it comes down to what's your intent. Okay, so you believe it's a reskin. So what's your intention? You plan on playing that reskin? Or do you plan on not playing it? I plan on not playing it. Well, then why are you talking about it? I don't know. I don't know either. What's your intent? Well, I do plan on playing it. Oh, okay. Then why are you talking about it? You see what I'm saying? It's like, it's human nature, man. It's human nature. And we got Whiskey Gaming. Whiskey Gaming coming in, man. W's in the chat. Yeah, you guys are already ahead of me. Whiskey Gaming coming in with another membership gift, bringing us up, crossing the 100 threshold, bringing us up to 101 on the day. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Give you a little Arnold laugh there. But, you know, in this instance, I can only give my personal opinion. I played Spider-Man Miles Morales. I got the platinum for it. I can see, certainly, and understand why people might look at it and say, well, this seems like it's very much similar to the last game. Like, it seems the same in a lot of ways. Yes, it is. And I have no problem with that because Spider-Man PS4 was amazing. And Miles Morales is, in my opinion, just more of that with new features, a new character, a new story. And also, I like the fact that it was during like Christmas time, snow and stuff on the ground. That was cool too. So I enjoyed it. And again, if a person's intention with saying something like that is, well, you shouldn't enjoy it that much because it's just a reskin, I don't care. I enjoy what I enjoy. I thought Miles Morales was great, and I'm sure Spider-Man 2 is going to be great. So, you know. All right, let me see. So I appreciate that, PlayStation Pete. Zanarkand, I'm going to get to your super chats, man. Don't worry. Just trying to catch up here. Zombie Dragon, you're saying the amount of gains Resident Evil 4 has... I was wondering if this was like a fitness-related super chat because you typed the word gains, but you meant games. You're saying the amount of games Resident Evil 4 has influenced thanks to it being a third-person shooter is unbelievable. And that is the truth. Yeah. Resident Evil 4 is by far one of the most influential games in gaming history. You're not wrong about that. Almost every like modern third-person shooter has taken inspiration from some degree from Resident Evil 4. So, yeah. And rightly so, man. Resident Evil 4 was a force to be reckoned with when it came out. And it's even today, like, you know, playing the remake, obviously changes were made, but it's, yeah, dude. You gotta give credit and you gotta put respect on Resident Evil 4's name for what it's done for the industry. No doubt about that. All right, Zanarkand Blitzer. You got like, first of all, I want to thank you for your super chats, man. I think that there's like 6 super chats in a row. I'm going to read them back to back to back. You're saying MBG. Oh, wait, already read that one. Part 1, MBG regarding Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater Remake, reusing the original voice files from the original PS2 version. I think it's the best way. You might not know when Konami were remaking MGS 1 for the GameCube, the horrible Twin Snakes version. They wanted to reuse the original voice files from the PS1 version, but when the voice actors recorded their voices for the PS1, it was at an apartment in Los Angeles, I think. There was no sound dampening, so when they reviewed the voice files for Twin Snakes, they could hear traffic. So for when Twin Snakes, they had to get the voice actors back to re-record it, and the result recording, according to players who played that horrible Twin Snakes, not me, it sounded like the voice actors were just reading from a script. They sounded bored, no passion, etc. Well, because they already recorded it before. When they remake Metal Gear Solid 1 for current gen, hopefully the technology has advanced so they would be able to filter out the traffic noise from the PS1 MGS1 voice files. So that's actually really, really interesting to me, Zanarkand Blitzer, and I actually feel like I recall hearing about this. I remember watching some type of... Because I never got to play Twin Snakes either. I remember hearing or listening to like a review of this, and that was one of the major complaints, which I was surprised to hear because at first at first when they were talking about the game in their review, and they're like, you know, Konami got all the original voice cast back to re-record their lines. And I was like, oh, that's impressive. And then it immediately took a left turn where the person was describing how, but it was actually not good because a lot of people just thought that the oomph just wasn't there, you know, like just something was missing. It's just like, you know, people were comparing them and they're like, the original sounds better. And that's funny because I had no idea. And that actually makes sense. You're saying that like the quality, like the actual literal recording quality of the original voice lines in MGS1, it was not hot. It was not good because it was very old, and you know there was background noise and stuff that could be detected. But it's like, I guess that says something, doesn't it? It just goes to show where it's like, who cares? Just if the acting is good, the passion is there, people are going to pick up on that, you know? And people are going to pick up when it's not there. And so I'm in total agreement with you, Zanarkhan Blitzer, because you're right. If they tried to alter how they want to do the voiceover for MGS3 Delta, or MGS Delta, the remake, even if they got the original voice cast back, they could potentially even ruin it that way. I mean, it would be interesting, and again, it would be cool to hear David Hayter reprise his role, but there is always the chance that, and we've literally, as you're mentioning here, we've seen it happen in real time where we got newly recorded voice lines by the same actors, and then people are like, yeah, we kind of preferred the original, you know? I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want Metal Gear Solid Delta to suffer the same fate. So, and you know what? I'm glad you brought this up, because if anything, this likely explains why Konami is choosing to just stick with the 2004 original voiceovers, because they've been down this road before and it didn't work out well for them. So, really appreciate those super chats, Narkin. I think that's some pretty good insight, and yeah, I think Konami's handling it the best possible way they could. MBG, you should watch the cyborg ninja scene in Twin Snakes. Also, Mei Ling of the original MGS is in all. Yeah, I don't know. I heard so that was one of the big complaints that I saw too about the Twin Snakes is people felt like they tried to make some of the action scenes even more actiony, and it like ended up making the game just like cross that line of like, okay, now this is just totally cheesy and ridiculous, like in a not good way. I don't know how much truth there is to that. Again, that's one Metal Gear game I've never played. I never played the Twin Snakes. It's always crazy to me to think that Twin Snakes released as a GameCube exclusive. Did it ever get ported to anything else? Or is it still a GameCube exclusive? Yeah, they added like the Matrix bullet time stuff. Oh, man. So it's still locked to GameCube? That's wild. I never knew that. I guess it makes sense, though, because I haven't seen it anywhere. Wow. Gonzalo Torch. I don't know if I'm saying your last name correctly, but you're saying, hey, MBG, what's up, bro? The only thing I'm not going to tolerate in Metal Gear Solid Remake is if they keep the constant black loading screens in between sections. And there you go. Like, that right there is a gameplay design that I don't know what... I feel like it's obvious there will be no load screens. There's no need for those load screens. And this is why I'm so interested in hearing how they handle the gameplay, because yes, that is a big component of Metal Gear Solid 3 is the black loading screens. Every time you go to a new area, there's a black loading screen, and it lasts, I don't know how long it lasts for, like 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Maybe that's too long. It was like 15 seconds, 10 seconds, something along those lines. Maybe it was even shorter than that. But they were there, and they were necessary. The hardware needed to load in everything. That's not needed this time. That's why we have the SSDs, to stop that. And so I don't know how you handle that. I don't know if the way you handle that is by just making the load screen last like 1 second just to let you know you're entering a new area, or do you just seamlessly blend it all together? If you blend it all together, it just seems like not a wide linear game, but essentially just a linear game with some, occasional, I don't even want to say open areas, because at the time they felt open, right? At the time, some of these areas felt open, but by today's standards, I don't know that they would feel so open. You're saying it was about 5 seconds, 5.5. Yeah, that sounds about, I was going to say like 15 seconds. Sounds too long. 30 seconds, way too long. But they were there. Like, it needed that extra little load. Make sure everything came in. So we'll see, man. I can assure you, Gonzalo, like, they're not going to have like if they have 5-second load screens for every area, then they did something completely wrong. I don't even know how that's possible with the speed of not just the PS5 SSD, but even in the Xbox Series consoles. It still has a very competent SSD. It shouldn't be a thing. So, good question, man. We'll see. It's another area of the gameplay that I would like to figure out what they're doing with, or how they're handling it. I mean, Whiskey Gaming. You're saying I started Elden Ring last week. First 2 days, I wanted to pull my hair out, but I've gotten into the game. Currently at level 69. That's good, man. Nice. Venturing into the Atlas Plateau. Game is huge and great, but little overpraised in my opinion, though. Yeah, you know what? Like, I'm happy to hear you're playing Elden Ring, man, and I'm also happy to hear that you're able to get a hold of it, because there are definitely some people where, and it's totally understandable, where they try to get into it and it just doesn't work out for them. You say you think it's a little bit overpraised. You know where I think that comes from? Do you know why I think a lot of people are willing to overlook some of because let's face it, there are some shortcomings in Elden Ring, just like there are in every video game. But I think the reason why people are just so willing to just not even really pay attention to them is because Elden Ring did something that so few games would ever be willing to do, so few developers, so few publishers would ever be willing to do. And it's simply that, like, we're going to prove to you that, like, hardcore gameplay, and just that alone is going to be the core of what this game is. And it's not going to be accessible. We're not going to have an easy mode. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're not going to tell you where to go. This game's just about hardcore gameplay. And that's what Elden Ring is, man. Yeah, there's a lot of lore there. There is a lot of story if you dig enough to find it. But and when I say shortcomings, I know, again, like, I'm not saying, oh man, Elden Ring has all these issues. No, I'm just saying, like, technically no game is perfect. There's always something that could be improved or an imperfection. And again, Elden Ring is not immune to that. It's just Elden Ring felt so different for so many people because what From Software decided to do from a game design standpoint in an open world, it's like you have this potent combination of not only is this a vast open world with amazing gameplay and just so much variety, but it's totally unapologetic in how it's going to present that to you. It doesn't care whether you know what the hell you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's such a meme at this point, the whole get good thing, but yeah, that game demands you have to get good. You have to get good. You have to improve, because if you don't, you will not progress. And in the big AAA video game space, especially with modern day open worlds, that is not something that you see that often at all, if ever. So yeah, that you could argue that absolutely is the brilliance of Elden Ring. And I think it took me a little bit to fully understand that, because I will admit, like, as somebody, the Dark Souls games are some of my favorite games of all time. And I know Dark Souls was always a big game, but I will admit, I was a little bit not upset. I don't know what word to look for. I guess It's like it's like if you're following a band and they're like a little popular but not really that well known, and then they put out an album, and then that album, like, it's what kicks them off into like mainstream, and you kind of are left with that feeling where it's like, yeah, but I've been here this whole time. Like, this is kind of, you know what I mean? Like, how come it wasn't already this big? And some people, I guess, get a little bit jaded at that point. But that, like, to me, that's kind of how I felt with Elden Ring a little bit, where I was like, dude, and that's again, I figured out, well, it's because Dark Souls was an open world, and Dark Souls just didn't have that. I don't know, man. Something happened with Elden Ring. I don't know what it is. It may have just been the open world and the fact that it was a fresh start, because Elden Ring is Dark Souls, dude. Like, straight up. It is. It is Dark Souls. It's just got a fresh coat of paint, lore-wise, thanks to George R.R. Martin. And it's an open world. And it's interesting to me. It's like that's exactly what Dark Souls needed to get kicked off into the mainstream. And I would have never guessed, honestly. Like, I would have never dude. I would have never guessed that that's what would have been needed to get to basically make Dark Souls turn into like a mega mainstream hit. Saying it's far more than just Dark Souls. Well, it's just, I guess it's one of these situations where it's like, without Dark Souls 1 through 3, there would be no Elden Ring. And there's just so much Dark Souls. I don't even want to say DNA, because it's more than just DNA. Like, there's so much Dark Souls in Elden Ring. It's amazing, I think. And that's a compliment to the game, because I always kind of, when I saw Elden Ring's gameplay for the first time, I'm like, dude, this is literally Dark Souls 4. But the thing that I was missing when I saw that gameplay for the first time was just how massively open and free this world is, where it's like, dude, imagine Dark Souls, but you can literally go anywhere and do anything, and there's just an insane amount of exploration to be done. And that's an enticing prospect, man. So Elden Ring is a genius game. It is. And I think it deserves all the credit it gets. So I'm happy to hear that, man. I just, I was thinking about Elden Ring recently, and I don't know. I'm not going to dive into it now, but I think the day will come. I don't know when, but the day will likely come where I go back and play Elden Ring again. And let me see here. Let me close some of these tabs. I want to make sure that I didn't miss any super chats. I think I'm all caught up now. Yes. Okay, we're caught up in super chats. I saw somebody. I don't know how much truth there is to this. It's just some random person that tagged me on Twitter. They said that VGC posted an article with a release date for Spider-Man 2, but then very quickly deleted it. Now, I don't know if there's truth to this, because this person did not get a screenshot of it or anything. So they could have just been making it up, and I haven't seen anybody else talking about it. Did anybody catch this? Or, oh, you know what, actually? You know what? I do remember a couple of days ago somebody in my chat did mention this, and I think it was a person who made a fake account posing as VGC or something. But check this out. I have a new article here. Let me look it over real quick and make sure it's not old news. Okay, yeah, here we go. This is interesting. This is being reported by Insider Gaming. Spider-Man 2 will feature a larger map that's twice the size of the original. When playing through Marvel's Spider-Man or Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, the scale of New York City that Insomniac Games captured was impressive, but as the old saying goes, you ain't seen nothing yet. According to a Famitsu interview with creative director Brian Intihar, I think that's how you pronounce his name, the map in Marvel's Spider-Man 2 will be even bigger. We've added Queens and Brooklyn to the map, which makes it roughly twice the size of our previous work, he said. These two neighborhoods are a bit smaller and more residential, so they have a different charm than Manhattan. We have prepared some unexpected situations that we have never seen before, such as battles using the river that runs between the neighborhoods, so please look forward to them. Despite the size of the game's new map, the abilities of both Peter Parker and Miles Morales will allow players to still travel New York City at great speeds, according to Intihar. The larger map and new abilities are all a part of making Spider-Man 2 feel like more than just a sequel. We want you to feel that this is not just a sequel, but a new experience for two heroes, he said. It also depicts the personal conflicts of Peter and Miles, so I hope you enjoy the parallel but common story. So there we go. I mean, this is the first I'm hearing that. I knew Spider-Man 2 was bigger, obviously. They showed that and they made that clear, but we're getting like, explicit confirmation from Brian Intihar of Insomniac saying that it's the map size overall for Spider-Man 2 is roughly twice the size of the previous games that came before it. So that's good to know, man. I'm not a believer in that like bigger is always better, but the fact that you will be able to, like, to me, it's about, okay, well, is there a need for the map to actually increase in size? Like, are you going to increase the density? I do like the fact that with Spider-Man 2 and these new areas, they're going to be more residential. That was something that was severely lacking in the first two Spider-Man games, or in Miles Morales and Spider-Man for PS4. So that I think is cool, and it is going to be interesting to see how that, how that feels, I guess, compared to the original games. But also the fact that you're now going to be able to, and I know I keep bringing it up, but I do think it is necessary to like increase the size of the map, considering you're now going to be able to fly around at like insane speeds. As long as that doesn't mean twice the collectibles. Oh yeah, please no. Insomniac, please be careful with the collectibles. Please. Yeah, you guys know how I feel. Well, most of you, I think, by now know how I feel about collectibles. I appreciate collectibles in the sense of, like, it's cool for those who like them, but I never like games that... it has to do with trophy hunting. I like hunting for trophies, but when there are trophies where it's like, get all the collectibles, even though it's a freaking nightmare, it's like, come on, man. That's never fun. So what I hope Insomniac does, I hope that they take notes from Sucker Punch. If you have like 200 plus collectibles in Spider-Man 2, that's fine. But if you're going to attach a trophy to those collectibles, please just make it so that you only need to get like 25% in total. Just make it so that if you're just trying a little bit, you'll get the trophy. Don't make it so that you need to get every single collectible in every nook and cranny and watch a guide for like 5 hours, and basically turn it into work. Because I like to trophy hunt, and I like to get platinums in games that I care about. I cannot stand when it feels like trophy hunting is becoming work thanks to collectibles. That's not fun. I don't mind challenges. I don't mind, something requiring skill and improving or a little bit of grinding. Waved Max saying best trophies are collectibles, MBG. Wow, I disagree wholeheartedly. Okay, guys, here's what we're going to end the final topic. This is coming up from the Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit. Final Fantasy IX Remake previously revealed via the NVIDIA leak, is potentially exclusive to PlayStation. Let me see where this is coming from. Give me a second. Yeah, so this is from the Reset Era forums. I don't spend time there, but they do have some insiders, I guess, that peruse. The rumor comes from someone that in the past has leaked Persona 3 Remake. I don't know. The thread is locked now. Well, yeah. Apparently, there's some information coming out from somebody. I don't know. I'm trying to look deeper into it here. Well, that wouldn't be surprising though. Would that shock anybody? Would that shock? I mean, that would, I don't think anybody would be surprised if whatever Final Fantasy game gets announced, like Final Fantasy 9 Remake, I don't think anybody would be even remotely surprised if it's, oh yeah, and it's a PS5 console exclusive. That wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I don't think if you're on Nintendo or Xbox, I don't think at this point you're expecting to get Final Fantasy games, right? At least the bigger ones. Devil Shooter, you're mentioning PC. Yeah, I could see it being that's why I said console exclusive, because I think it's safe to say that bigger Final Fantasy games will probably also go to PC. Like, I don't know, I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is probably going to go to PC as well. But you're saying money talks. Yeah. When it comes to Sony and Square Enix, absolutely it does. So we'll see if we get any more information on that. But I just happened to come across that. But I think that's going to end up doing it for this stream today, guys. I went through all the topics that I wanted to discuss with you guys. There was an extra topic that I actually wasn't planning on discussing, but it is relevant. I think we talked a little bit about we talked about Spider-Man 2. We talked about the Final Fantasy 16 demo. We talked about Metal Gear Solid. We talked about Qualcomm talking to Sony about a new handheld. We talked about Comcast trying to potentially buy a AAA publisher. And we did talk about the Xbox showcase a little bit as well. Jack, you're saying, how about the Redfall article from Jason Schreier? I don't know. I saw somebody mention this earlier. I haven't looked into it. I could check it out really quick before we go. Jason Schreier, inside the making of Redfall, Xbox's latest misfire. Over the years, Microsoft-owned video game developer Arcane Studios has cultivated a reputation for releasing games that are beloved by fans yet don't sell very well, such as Prey and Dishonored 2. By contrast, the studio's most recent game, Redfall, has achieved something new. It has managed to be at once a commercial and critical disappointment. Redfall, a multiplayer shooter set on the fictional Massachusetts island full of vampires, debuted on May 2nd and was promptly panned. Fans and critics slammed the game's bugs and shortcomings. On the review aggregation website Metacritic, Redfall has earned a paltry 54 out of 100, ranking it among the year's worst reviewed games. It seems there's an issue with every element, a certain reviewer wrote. In the end, Redfall feels unpolished, underdone, underwhelming, and uncomfortable. Joost van Drunen, a video game analyst and professor, said Redfall's failure highlights the significant gap between Microsoft's lofty aspirations and its actual products, which also calls into question Microsoft's ability to establish long-term franchises on its own strength rather than buying them outright. But to the makers of Redfall, the mediocre reception was no big surprise. The project suffered from unclear direction, frequent attrition, and a perennial lack of staff, according to more than a dozen people who worked on the game, speaking anonymously because they were not authorized to discuss it publicly. A spokesperson for Redfall's publisher, Bethesda Softworks, declined to comment. Development of Redfall began in 2018. At the time, ZeniMax, the large privately held owner of Bethesda Softworks, was looking to sell itself. Behind the scenes, the company was encouraging its studios to develop games that could generate revenue beyond the initial sales. A popular trend dubbed games as a service, which was taking off in the late 2010s thanks to lucrative hits like Overwatch and Fortnite. According to people familiar with the process, ZeniMax was strongly urging developers as its subsidiaries to implement microtransactions, that is, recurring opportunities with games for players to spend real money, say outfitting their characters, although this wasn't an absolute mandate. Several ZeniMax franchises such as Fallout, Doom, and Wolfenstein would soon release new versions incorporating online multiplayer and monetization options. At Arcane's headquarters in Austin, Harvey Smith and Ricardo Barr, Barr, I don't know how you say it, respected industry veterans, were tapped to serve as co-directors of Redfall. Following the commercially unsuccessful release of the sci-fi shooter Prey a year after, leadership across the company wanted to make something more broadly appealing. What eventually emerged was the idea to make a multiplayer game in which users would team up, basically, what ended up being Redfall. So, I don't know if is that the entirety of the article? I don't know if that's the entirety of the article, but that's as much as I could get here. Now it's asking me to, pay, which I'm not doing. Somebody in the comments says 70% of developers left Arcane Austin, among them a bunch of veteran developers. The studio is basically dead. I wonder how Arcane Line is doing. I assume this article is much longer, right? Because I feel like that ended kind of abruptly. But you know what? Just somebody did a too long didn't read version. I'll read this. They said, Arcane, known for single-player games, ZeniMax looking to sell the company and wants a game with broad appeal that prints money from microtransactions. Roughly 70% of Arcane staff quits. Shitstorm ensues. Barely able to hire anyone or keep the staff that they have. Microsoft buys ZeniMax for the bigger stuff, Fallout, etc., and gets Arcane stuff as a bonus, basically. Microsoft takes a completely hands-off approach with Arcane. Microtransactions get removed, but basically nothing else changes. The game is essentially the same as it was in 2021. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to get this kind of inside info from developers who worked on the game, because that's stuff that obviously they can't say publicly. I do appreciate that Jason Schreier can kind of act as this, even with Naughty Dog recently, right? Giving us more detailed information about what's going on with The Last of Us multiplayer. I do like that Jason Schreier can kind of act as this in between, where it's like the developers can't speak publicly, but they can speak to me, and I can basically relay that information. None of this is surprising. Look, I don't have anything more to say on Redfall, but in reading this article and hearing what the developers are saying, even some of the developers apparently were expecting the game to get canceled. In my opinion, that tells you literally everything you need to know about this game, about how it was a mess from beginning to end. And I know a lot of people want to blame Microsoft. Microsoft, I think, truthfully, especially looking, hindsight 2020. I think we saw it the day it launched, but they should have. I think it would have been wise of Microsoft to just cancel this game, because this game didn't help them, man. I don't think this game helped Game Pass. I don't think it helped their reputation. I think Redfall truly only served to hurt Microsoft and their goals. And I think I understand. Well, then, you know what? Hold on. Let me say this. Because I was just thinking, imagine if Microsoft did cancel Redfall. They would have gotten torn to shreds. Think about that. If Microsoft bought Bethesda and then immediately canceled Redfall, they would have gotten absolutely shredded. The difference between what they decided to do now is, if you think about it, them choosing not to cancel Redfall, letting them release it, everything being a nightmare, and it was just really bad. At least now, and again, maybe this is me trying to be overly optimistic, but I think it's logical. At least now, if Microsoft decides to cancel something, they can turn to Redfall and they can say, "Hey guys, this was us being hands off. trust us now. You can trust us now if we cancel the game. You know what I mean? Like, nobody wants to see that happen. Like, nobody wants to see anybody cancel games. But it's like, I can't deny that if Microsoft canceled Redfall right after buying Bethesda, they would have gotten absolutely annihilated. You're saying MBG needs to upgrade his camera? Guys, what do you think? What do you think? Do I need to upgrade my camera? I mean, I've asked this before, and most people were... pretty much everybody was saying it looks fine. And it looks good. They did cancel the PS5 version, LOL. It says Toon Army. Yeah, you're right about that. Maybe they should have just taken the extra step and maybe just cancel the whole thing. You're saying it's blurry. You know what it is? You know what I think it might be? You're saying it's blurry. I think... Is it blurry? It looks pretty crisp on my end. It might... The closer I get to the camera, it might get a little bit blurrier. I do not have autofocus on. The reason I don't have autofocus on is because it can get very annoying. So... You're saying I can't see the individual pores in your skin. Oh, geez, is that the measurement of whether or not I'm using a good enough camera? Yeah, because I'm looking at it on my end, man, and it's 1080p, 60 FPS, and it's looking pretty good, if I do say so myself. So I don't have a 4K camera yet, though. Maybe in the future I could get. I don't know. Is a 4K camera necessary? I feel like I sit so close, you know? Maybe it would be. I don't know. But yeah, so that's an article that came out from Jason Schreier. I don't think it's relevant to my content here, truthfully. We did talk about Redfall when that whole situation happened, but it's unfortunate, man. I just, you know, I do think that not just Microsoft, but Bethesda and Arcane, I think going forward, they have something to prove here. This is obviously a pretty bad black mark on their reputation. And, you know, and as we mentioned earlier, the Xbox showcase is coming. So what better opportunity to prove what it is you may need to prove than by showing some new games, man. So... Yeah, I think 4K would probably just be too much. You're saying wouldn't it downsample from 4K to 1080p on YouTube? Probably, yeah. Probably. You're saying MBG's PC is fine, and then Robert says it's not fine. I don't know, man. My PC's been running things pretty well, good enough, I would say. Like I don't think we're gonna have any problems with Summer Game Fest. We didn't really have many issues with. The only issue we had when streaming the PlayStation Showcase was at one point the stream started buffering, and that wasn't because of my PC. That's just an internet thing, and I can't do anything about that. My internet's very good. I have fiber optic internet. It's just that it's the nature of live streaming sometimes, man. You know. There's nothing you can really do about it. And that's the thing is, like, basically I just had to refresh it one time, and after refreshing it one time, I didn't have any issues. The only thing that does annoy me, though, and I got to figure out, I don't know if this is in YouTube settings, when I manually click on 720p or 1080p 60 FPS when watching something and streaming it, after like 10 or 15 minutes, it always renders it down. It bumps it down to like 480p. And I don't know why it does that. Like, even when I manually choose an option. Do you have premium bit rate? That I don't know. I mean, my bit rate on my stream, I think it's set to 7,000, which I'm pretty sure is perfectly fine for 1080p 60 FPS. if I'm not mistaken, I think I pay for the most expensive internet you can get because I stream a lot. So, well, guys, yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this stream today. 3.5 hours. I mean, you guys absolutely killed it today. I have to give a big thank you, obviously, to everybody who gifted memberships. You guys know who you are, and I have to give Corey Lendega a big shout out because I mean, Corey, I think you single-handedly gifted 80 memberships today, and that's a lot, man. That's a lot. I mean, you like I said, everybody's always gifting memberships, and it's very nice to see. We are continuing to grow this community. I love doing this. I love being able to stream with you guys. I love being able to talk games. I love being able to go over the news. It's a privilege, like I said in my community post, and so I can't thank you guys enough. We hit 101 channel members today. It's June 1st. To me, the first of a month always feels like somewhat of a fresh start, even though it's a Thursday, but still, it always kind of feels that way. And so I really want to thank you guys for starting off the month very strong here on the channel. I had no doubt you guys would continue to show support. So really means a lot. And I also want to thank everybody who continues to super chat. I know I talk a lot about memberships and membership gifting, but as I always say, super chats are just as important, and super chats are also another major form of direct support. So to all those who support me directly and basically enable me, empower me, and allow me to do this, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I also just want to thank everybody for watching the streams, and just hit that like button, guys. I think maybe we could get to 350. I think we could definitely get to 350 likes. We're 3 away. So, all right. I don't know that I'm gonna have a video coming out today. I'll see. I'm thinking about trying to. Well, you know what? I'm not gonna say it because I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna tell you guys. Oh, I got a schedule. No, I don't. I don't have a schedule. Whatever I tell you right now, I'm not gonna adhere to it. So I guess all I will say is, also big shout out to Devil Shooter. I still see people talking about timestamps and asking me about them. So people have to try to understand it's impossible to have timestamps ready to go as soon as the stream ends. It takes a little bit of time, and Devil Shooter's been doing a great job with the timestamps. So everybody give big thank you, and let's get some W's in the chat for Devil Shooter. If you are somebody who absolutely needs timestamps to watch the streams, your best bet is to wait. I'd say between 12 and 24 hours after the stream ends. Come back. There's a good chance timestamps will be there. So thank you so much for that, Devil Shooter. Really appreciate the hard work you've been putting in on the channel here and for the community. It truly is incredibly helpful. So, all right, guys. Maybe I'll make a video. If not, we might do another stream tomorrow. If not, I'll probably have a video out tomorrow. But that's it. All right, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you for all the support. I will catch you guys in the next one. Until then,